would be it is they. George Brauchler right here on the George Show. I'll be with you for 4 whole hours, all the way till 10 o'clock. There's really no reason to do anything other than to keep the radio dial, if dials exist anymore, set to 710. Big show today. A lot of things that went on yesterday politically, but big show for us in this hour. We're going to be joined by the fabulous doctors Richter and Snyder. You hear me talk about them every single day, but we're going to actually have them in studio. But before then, we've got a little bit of the stuff that we normally do. Took a look at the history thing because, I'm kind of into the history thing. The only big one I could see was the Zulu War began. The Anglo-Zulu War began on this day in 1879. In 1922, insulin first used to treat diabetes on human beings. That's kind of cool. Get this, though. The dude, Fred Banting, he's the guy that did it. He injected a fellow Canadian to use this, Leonard Thompson. Leonard, 14. I just didn't know that that's how we rolled this stuff out. When we go to do the cure stuff, we're like, find me a teen and let's go and stick some needles in them. Hey, the weather today, 22 degrees. That's awfully cold. Mike, I hope the wind is gone. Yesterday and the day before, the wind was ridiculous. I felt like we were Kansas, but prettier. Saturday and Sunday, they've adjusted all of the temperatures down. 12 degrees on Saturday, down to 5 with a -5 low on Sunday. That's a good day to stay huddled up and watch your watch some other team play in the playoffs. Monday, flurries and very cold, 15 degrees. Big day yesterday, and we'll talk about some of this stuff. Had some kind of a town hall with Donald J. Trump. It was his first not pre-recorded, edited thing in half a year. That was on Fox. And then Vivek Ramaswamy took to social media, as far as I know, and just sent out a whole bunch of things where he said, these are the truths. And then Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley threw haymakers at each other in the 5th GOP debate, the only 2 to make that 10-plus point in 3 different polls cutoff. And then a guy dropped out of the race yesterday, and we'll talk about that too. But I missed all of that other political stuff that we normally talk about. I'm going to need you to help bring me up to speed, even though I spent a good chunk of last night and this morning trying to catch up on all the audio from this.
I thought you were watching some fights last night or something. I thought you were watching people throw down.
Dude, last night was fantastic because Grammy and I got to go to Ball Arena to check out our Avalanche beat up on the Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions.
Nice. That is nice when you get to take it at the Knights. That's great because that to me, it seems like, and I feel like I'm talking out of school being an Avs fan, because when they moved the Nordiques here, we were blessed with an instant championship.
Instant.
And so, but I still have a little bit of upset, a little bit of anger that the Golden Knights show up into the league and they're like monsters already. You're like, wait a minute.
I know.
But aren't you supposed to suck for a while? I mean,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Where's your Cleveland Browns era? I mean, where's that happening? That's
what Cleveland, but even they're not even Cleveland Browns right now. Nichushkin, by the way, what a huge game. Had multiple opportunities to pick up the hat trick. Wow. I didn't realize this either. This year has represented, and it's a failure as a father and a Coloradan. But when I took Jeff late last year, and he loved the game. He's like, hey, Dad, this is the first time I've ever seen the Avs. And I'm like, wait, what? You're 16.
Wow,
Don't say that out loud. People are going to think I'm not a good dad. Yesterday, Grammy recently turned 14. It's his first Avs game. So 2 big wins, by the way. We were at opposite ends of the ice. Such a great game. I mean, Graham, we were right below, or in the club level seats, right below where the band plays, if you've ever been out there and seen it. Oh, wow. And so Graham sees the band guys flashed up on whatever, the Ball Arena equivalent of the Diamond Vision is. And he's instantly like, Dad, the next time they play, I'm going to run up there and get on camera. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, as a dad, this is my 4th, right? Like if it was my first child, if it was Amanda, I'd be like, no, we don't need to do that. I turn to him and say, just let me know before you go so I can get my phone ready.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I can record this. So they come back on. It was sometime in the first period. He bolts up the stairs.
Oh, no way.
And I'm looking at the Diamond Vision like I'm going to see my son somehow interfering with the band.
Yeah, with the band, yeah.
And he comes back down. He goes, "Hey, there's a security guard up there."
You mean other people have thought of this first?
Just like
not
a
the
little
first
resignation,
idea.
like,
Yeah.
oh, well.
Oh, well, rules suck.
What can you do?
Yeah.
But that was that game I bemoaned yesterday that wasn't supposed to be puck drop till 8. No,
Yeah.
it was puck drop more like 8:20. And I was just like, oh, you're killing me, guys.
Oh, that's
It's
awful.
a school night.
Yeah.
I am really not a very good dad
No,
here.
not at all. No.
And then I got home and had just enough sleep that I could come in here and you
Yeah.
and I get a riff before we get
Yeah.
our buddies, Doctors Richter and
Yeah.
Snyder.
And that they have just arrived as well. So they're sitting in.
Oh, wait a minute. For just a moment on the video,
Yeah.
I saw Dr. Snyder with the headgear on.
Yes.
Yeah, listen, I am so disappointed to not be there for reasons well beyond my control,
Yeah.
but I need to see pictures of the baby. I mean, Dr. Snyder had at least one child since the last time they were in the studio. I think it was one. I don't want to make it seem like it's more than that without knowing for sure, but she had at least one child, and I'm anxious to see the little baby. And then, of course, Dr. Richter always comes in with the straight man humor. I need that. I mean, he is... who's the fat one on Abbott and Costello?
I think that's me.
Is that Lou? Yeah. I think in
yeah.
the Richter Brauchler connection, I'm Lou.
No.
He's Bud. He's Bud Abbott. He's just much more the straight guy. Yeah, who's on first? And I'm the guy that's like that.
Wait, what's the guy's name? Yeah.
I'm excited to have them in studio too to have a conversation. And I think that they're prepared by now for this segment, which is, what's the weirdest thing you've had to do in someone's mouth? Professionally, I'm not looking for any sort of a confession that would lead people to.
We'll tell you what.
Make this.
Let's do this. They have to abscond and run away, and they turn into pumpkins sometime around the half hour. So how about we step aside right now? We'll set everything up, and then you can chat with them.
This is. By the way, for folks that listen, we don't normally do it this way, but we'll always do it this way for our buddies, Dr. Richter and Snyder.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. Let's cut away for a break. We'll come back. We'll get into someone's mouth. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. It's a very special Thursday edition of the George Show at 17 Continuous.
The doctors and I were talking. I apologize. That is my fault as far as the music's on.
Folks, what you don't know is I probably talked for about 30 seconds saying a whole bunch of great things about Doctors Richter and Snyder, but nobody could hear it because Billy was talking with Dr. Richter and Snyder.
I know.
I'm not going to repeat any of that stuff. Instead, I'm just going to say, ladies and gentlemen, in studio, and I wish I were there to give them their due in person, Doctors Richter and Snyder from Twin Aspen Dental. They're my dentist. Oh my gosh, I can see you guys on camera. Turn it off. No, I'm kidding. How are you guys doing? It's great to have you in.
Hi, George.
Thanks for having us, George.
Let's get to the good stuff first. Dr. Snyder, you've had at least one child since we last had you in studio.
I have.
Give us an update.
Just one child. I can confirm that it's just one. Her name is Mia. She is 6 months old. So it's a lot of fun. We're finally sleeping a little bit better, which makes it even more fun. So it's been awesome. 6
months old tells me a couple things. One, you guys are already plotting out child number 2. Let us know how that goes.
Not quite yet.
The other is at 6 months, they're starting to do things that make you actually have to parent.
Yes. Yeah. So right now, the big thing is she's rolling from her back to her stomach when she's sleeping. And that's totally new. So it's kind of scary when you check the camera and you see that she's just like face down in her crib. So that's a little alarming. But
and you've got the monitors everywhere where like every time she exhales, you can hear it in another room.
Yes. We're locked and loaded with the monitors. That's for sure.
Yeah. Has Dad figured out his role yet? And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but as a dad, and I presume Dr. Richter would echo this, there's a period of time where you're not really sure what your role is, right? Like you can't provide the sustenance. You're not as good at all the other things. That was my feeling. It took me a long time to figure out, what do I do now?
Yeah. So I started work back in October. I think it was like October 16th. And
it was right after I came in for my cleaning. I didn't get a chance.
It was. So my husband actually didn't have to start work until last month. So he definitely got a taste of, motherhood and parenthood at its finest. He was pretty much the full-time parent when I went back to work. So
he must be he must be a member of a union. No, I'm kidding. Didn't have to show up yet. You don't have to tell us the employer. First off, I missed seeing you when I was out there. Can't wait to come back out there and do it again. I should tell you before we get into some of the great questions, and I want to hear what you guys are doing that's new and special. I've had texters text in and say, hey, my wife's going to Twin Aspen Dental for her first thing, and I'm going late. And I'm like, that just makes me smile, right? Like I went down that road myself, which is I'd heard about Twin Aspen Dental Center. Of course, I'd seen all the tattoos around town. But then when I ultimately got down there and you put Shiloh with me, which I imagine she's thinking about quitting every time she sees my name on that patient roster. But it was just such a fantastic experience. I don't know what you guys have done down there, but it's the best.
We appreciate that, George. And again, thanks for having us on. I heard you were at the hockey game late last night, which explains why you're not here this morning.
There's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of some other child-related things. And before we get into some more of the teeth stuff, Dr. Richter, I don't know if you'll echo this. When I had my first of 4 that I know of, my daughter was about 6 months old, let's say, and I ran into this seasoned homicide detective from out in Jefferson County, and he was asking me about it. I'm like, oh, it's so great, it's magical, I love being a dad of a daughter and all that stuff. And I said, but man, that parenting, sure, it's life-changing, it's challenging. And he's like, how old? I said, like 6 months. And he's like, that's not parenting. He said, look, if you can put your kid down in the middle of a room, walk away and come back and they're still in the middle of the room, that's not parenting. I go, I don't even understand what you're saying until they get fully mobile. And then you realize, OMG, man, it's a spinning top all the time. And you're just trying to make sure they don't find your guns and knives and matches while you've turned your back on them. So that's when the parenting kicks in.
You're exactly right. And that the dad role for that first year, maybe 18 months, is very supportive. So while Dr. Snyder's husband has taken on a lot of that, being home from work, for the first year, I was mostly the cheerleader while my wife largely took on the brunt of it because there's only so much the dad could do, right?
Well, and for you, I imagine parenting doesn't get super exciting until your kid gets that first tooth, right? Because now now you're like, oh, here's where I come in, honey. This is where I bring it in. We need to polish that thing or something.
Mia's got her first 2 teeth on the bottom already, so I'm really strict on brushing those things every day. So Ryan's like, do we really have to brush her teeth already? I'm like, absolutely, yes, we do.
Wrong question for the dentist.
Exactly, wrong question.
Do you floss them? Do you floss 2 teeth?
No, but that's probably a task for next weekend. We'll probably start that soon.
Tell us about what's going on at Twin Aspen Dental. It seems like the last time I was in there, I didn't know you had this machine. Maybe it was 2 times ago. Shiloh had me bite down on something professionally and had this thing spin around my head and sort of do this, I think, shoot a bunch of rays into my brain, but got a huge panorama view of my mouth and stuff. And I'm like, this is all the state of the art stuff. It didn't feel painful at all. I was counting on it. She told me to put nickels in my mouth when it was going on. And I was like, that's so weird. But I'm kidding. She didn't actually tell me to do that. I just did it on my own. What else you guys got going on that you're branching into?
Well, coming back from, the holiday season, we've been really, really crazy busy. So we took a little bit of time off for Christmas and so just kind of getting back into it. But yeah, I would say just kind of, the usual good old dentistry stuff. So fillings, crowns, let's see. What else? Anything?
No, tell me about, remember when I talked to you guys last time, you had said something, and I don't think we were on air at all, but you had said, listen, we do some of this Botox stuff that has this therapeutic application to it or whatever it is. What do you guys do with that?
Yeah. So with the Botox, so not only do we do it for cosmetics, so we do it for, forehead, lines around the eyes, things like that. But we also do it for the masseter muscles. So basically the big chewing muscles that you have and the muscles that are responsible for clenching and grinding, which therefore cause headaches and things like that. We can actually inject it into that muscle belly. And then what that does is it prevents that muscle from firing. So you don't feel, the effects of clenching and grinding as much in terms of pain, headaches, things like that. So it does help. It helps a lot with, those sort of symptoms of clenching, of grinding. Patients love it.
I was also taken with the options for flavors for the stuff, when you're cleaning the teeth, when Shiloh gets the big tool out and all that stuff. And it was, I think it was peppermint, fruit, and bacon. And I really thought that the moving into bacon was genius, especially for dudes and dogs. And I don't even know if you do dogs, but that's fantastic. Can we talk a little bit about, and this is my favorite part of our conversations, is without violating any sort of HIPAA or privacy thing, because we don't want to do that yet. What's the strangest thing you've had to do inside someone's mouth since last we had you here?
Oh boy.
Do you have any good ones, Dr. Snyder?
I'm sure I do. I have to sit and think on that one for a second.
I had this sweet little old lady in a couple months ago, and we'll say Miss Jones. She has dentures top and bottom, and I can't remember why she was in, but she doesn't have a good foundation, a good ridge to hold her denture in. And I say, Miss Jones, how do you hold your denture in? And she says, Dr. Richter, twice a day I use super glue to hold my denture in. And if you've ever had super glue, I'm sure all of us had, close to your face, close to your eyes, is this caustic burning filling that is not very pleasant. So to put that in your mouth twice a day, we'll get the occasional patient that says, hey, my crown fell off, and I grab super glue, which I go to my office and bang my head against my desk. But to put that in your mouth to hold your denture in was a good one for me, was a new one.
Wow, that's a great one. I have not heard that before.
Do they have bacon flavored super glue? Because
one could only wish. No, I think it's more still like the caustic, horrible chemical flavor.
Listen, I did not tell you we were going to do this. I did not know that it would come to fruition, but we actually have a caller on the line. I'm going to ask you for purposes of consent if we can bring that caller on, but no matter what you say, we're going to bring that caller on. So is it okay?
Let's do it.
Sure, bring him on.
Great. Should be fun.
Corey, you're on 710 with Drs. Richter and Snyder. What do you got, my man?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, doctors.
Good morning.
I've been a patient of Dr. Richter's as soon as he came into town. So I've known them longer than you, George. And I just want to thank them. As a child, I was traumatized by my orthodontist, who was somewhat abusive. And I just had a great experience with them. They made me so relaxed and enjoy it. Also, the main thing I want to mention to folks is I have to work downtown Denver. So they used to accommodate me and have early morning appointments so I could get in and get on my way and get to my job. So their front desk and folks are awesome getting me those accommodating appointments. So I really appreciate that so much. And recently, my wife, who's had a series of dental issues, had a problem and couldn't get in her dentist. So I convinced her to go over to see the doctors. And she liked the experience so much that she is now a full-time patient of theirs as well. So my both myself and my wife are now full-time patients at Twin Aspen. That I appreciate their investment in the community by that wonderful building they have. It's a wonderful experience. And the reason I called in is because I have an appointment coming. I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks. But I've always been worried. Have you seen George is not the epitome of sharpness first thing in the morning? And I always get worried with those early morning appointments going, well, have they had enough coffee? Are they doing well? Are they doing okay early in the morning? But this morning, you're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. So it makes me feel better, those early morning appointments, to know that you have the capacity to be up and right and going forward so quickly. So I'm not sure how you do it. Maybe you can give some tips to George, because he's always slow in the morning. But,
I need that 6 o'clock hour to get going. Listen, Corey, thanks for the call. In no way, by the way, was this a planned call. Corey reaches out to me and he goes, "Oh my gosh, you're going to have Richter and Snyder on. Can I pretty please call in and say nice things about them?" And I said, "Absolutely not. That is not the purpose." And he said, "Oh, I want to do it anyway." And I said, "All right, man." So we did it.
Well, that was very nice. Thanks for that.
Corey's great. Long time patient, good person. So
Can we talk about? I feel like his call in here was a waiver of a lot of things, including HIPAA. Can we talk about his dental health?
Sure. Where do we want to start?
Absolutely.
We should have had Corey on. Most bizarre thing you've pulled out of Corey's mouth. No, I'm kidding. Still, the number one thing, I love the denture thing, but the video that we had that one time, I think Shiloh had the video of the dude who got together with his buddies, threw down a little bit of the alcohol and decided, hey, let's get this tooth out the old fashioned way. Somebody go grab some pliers, and then they foot up on his shoulder and broke the thing in half. And then you guys had to come to the rescue. That's still my favorite. Dentures is number 2 now, but we're going to have to come up with a third. And again, it's just fun because I think people think of dentists as they're not the ER docs, but some of the stuff you guys come across is just wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Hey, listen, something else I should tell you. We have a friend of the show who's an oral surgeon, and she's a good buddy. And from time to time, I talk to her about the whole, hey, what are you doing? And all this other stuff. She'll get people directly from the bad things that happen to them, but she gets a lot of folks where people come in and say, this horrible thing's happening in my mouth. I'd gone to see my dentist and they did X, Y, and Z, and that dentist invariably has messed it up. And she listens to the show and she's like, who doesn't really, patients don't come to me from them, is Twin Aspen Dental. She said, I really don't have folks that show up and say, hey, Dr. Richter put a flashing bulb in my mouth, for a tooth, and it's really gone wrong or something like that. She's like, they must do a pretty good job because they really don't send people my way and they don't show up on their own. So congratulations. That's pretty good.
It's good not to have patients showing up unreferred to the oral surgeon office or say Parker Adventist. So that's always the goal, not to have that as the end result.
And listen, since we're all buddies here and Corey brought up, I really wanted to explore this with Corey because I saw Richter, you smile too, when he said, I was traumatized by an abusive orthodontist. Instantly, I'm thinking, I got to hear that story. I don't know if that's a radio story, but you want to know about that. But I just want to be sure nobody in the Twin Aspen team is thinking about poisoning a spouse.
Not yet.
Is that the talk of the dental world? Do you guys have some sort of a listserv where you're like, oh my God, by the way, that dentist was the dentist to 2 people at the station at 710, the killer dentist. One of them you're looking at through the glass right now. So, oh yeah, that's real. That's real. So I've been trying to figure out a way, even though it's, it's a 2-day drive away, I'm trying to figure out a way to convince Billy to take his family down there to Twin Aspen Dental Center, where 1, he can be certain that they're not going to kill their spouses, but 2, they can get the top shelf dental treatment.
Yeah, come on over. We're not going to poison our
It's a
spouses. So
safe place, Billy.
you're in good hands.
Hold on. This tell Mark Anderson, this is the new tagline for Twin Aspen Dental. Come to Twin Aspen Dental. We're not going to poison our spouses.
I love it.
What else is going on there? I know you guys are busy and you came in here merely to just to have this conversation, but I don't want to take you away from patients. So tell me what else is going on. What are the big things that you would want to tell folks about to get them back in the door?
Yeah, just take care of yourselves. It's a new year. Lots of people are making resolutions that some are attainable, some are not. So I think a fairly easy one is to take care of yourself. We see people every day who they haven't been in the office in 5-10. Yesterday, a guy was 25 years since his last dental visit.
Oh my goodness.
Nice guy, the ex-Marine, and his last dental work was probably while he was in the Marines. So as you can imagine, Shiloh's going to have her work cut out for her while she cleans him over a couple visits.
When you cross over the quarter-century mark on plaque removal, does she have to throw on a welder's mask and grab an acetylene torch and start chiseling that away? Because I imagine that stuff is concrete.
Without a doubt. Yeah, she's breaking out the big tools that day. So,
and well, she's got the pipes for it. For folks that haven't dealt with her, she's got the gun show going on there. She can probably take care of all of it with just a pocket knife. I know you guys don't do that. I'm just saying, I think she probably could do it.
I'm sure she could. Yes.
Listen, Mythbusters, last thing. What's the number one myth that you encounter with people when they finally come in, or you hear people talking and they're like, actually, this is only going to be the first of two questions. When they say something about dental health or dentistry and you're like, well, that's just not true. Here's the real truth.
When they tell us they floss their teeth. No, I'm joking.
I had a strange one the other day with someone was putting essential oils in her mouth and, hoping that would cure the issue. And
like WD-30 or?
Just, orange essential oil, just different types of essential oils, oregano, things like that. So I'm not,
oregano.
I don't think the latest studies show that does much, but so that was an interesting one, but
that has to have come off the internet. Also, here's something. Did you have one, Dr. Richter? I don't want to cut you off for Mythbusters.
No, that's great. I mean, the home remedies are always fun to hear. How did this person, when we say you're going to need a root canal or a tooth out, and they come in 3 months later and tell us what they did at home, it's always fun. Or when they say, hey, I chipped my tooth and I got my file in the shop and smoothed it down. And I always ask them to try to video that so I could critique their technique.
Along the lines of the plier tooth removal.
Right.
That's the best. The last thing is this. When you're a prosecutor and you go to a social setting, dinner party, invariably people ask, hey, tell me about this kooky case that I read on, or I saw on TV, or I read about, or and I imagine for an ER doctor too, people are like, hey, what's the craziest thing that's happened for you guys, when you go out socially, maybe it's the Christmas setting or something else. How many people come up and they're like, hey, can I show you something? And they just go right hook in mouth and pull that thing back and go, does that look infected? Or is that a diamond back there? What is it? I mean, how often does that happen?
It does happen, family functions and things like that. You see aunts, uncles, all that fun stuff. And, I do see a couple teeth, that's for sure.
And how often are you embarrassed by their lack of hygiene? Like when you look in there and go, Aunt Velma, please, the toothbrush is not your enemy.
Sometimes it'll shock you. Sometimes it definitely will.
Dr. Richter?
I avoid that altogether. I don't tell people I'm a dentist when I'm in a social setting. So,
what do you tell them when they ask?
I work at the circus. I don't know.
How do you dodge?
I just avoid that altogether.
How do you dodge the family members?
It's hard to dodge the family members. I tell them I'm not working.
I love the idea of you're at the mouth circus is what it is.
That's it.
Listen, Doctors Richter and Snyder, they're the dynamic duo from Twin Aspen Dental. They're my dentists. I think they've been in my mouth now in the completely professional way. What's that? Billy's in my ear. You can hear him saying, give the phone number and the website. The phone number is No, I'm kidding. I'll let you guys do the phone number and the website, and then I'll echo you. What do you, Dr. Snyder, quiz? What's the phone number?
The phone number is 303-841-7466.
Say it again.
303-841-7466. Did I pass on that, Dr. Richter?
You got it. Nailed it. What's the fax number? We'll go. No, just kidding.
Ooh, that one, I think I might
you
fail
have a
that
fax
quiz.
machine.
We
That's
do.
hello 1980s.
Will this still
Dr.
exist?
Richter, what's the website?
It's www.twinaspendentalcenter.com.
God bless you
Catchy.
for throwing in the www. Thank you for doing that. I thought I was the only one that did that out here. When I do that, my kids look at me and they're like, what are you, 100? TwinAspenDentalCenter.com. You guys are so conveniently located. You can get to you from anywhere, really, right there at about Stroh and Parker Road and that fantastic building. Always great parking. It's a great environment. I just love that you continue to let me come in the building.
Welcome anytime, George.
Man,
Thanks,
happy
George.
New Year to both of you. And the next
as
time
well.
we have you in, I imagine we'll be talking about babies 2 or 3 or something like that.
Not if it's for a couple years.
And Dr. Richter, are you all done having children as far as you know?
As far as I know, I get asked that question daily from my wife. So
How many
So-
do you have?
I have two girls.
Oh, you're way behind, buddy. Come on. You've
I'm way
got
behind
to
you.
do more. You've got to do more than just replace.
Did
We
you
need
think you were done at
taxpayers.
2 or 3 or?
So say you're done at 2 and then you'll pick up a third. We said we were done at 3 and
At
we
3.
picked up a fourth. It just it's that kind of a thing for guys.
that
where
plus
you
one
can't
thing.
can't really figure it out until it happens again. And then you're like, wait, sit down and draw it out for me. How did we get here? And then you realize, oh, yeah, gonna have some sort of medical intervention. But you guys don't do that work. You don't do the Botox in that area. So let's just
That's a good idea.
We do
Just
not
leave
yet.
it at that. Our friends, Doctors Richter and Snyder, and congratulations on the beautiful new baby. Please send a picture to Billy so he can send it to me. These are our friends at Twin Aspen Dental Center. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
Thanks
George.
for having us, George.
We'll see you guys soon. I'll see you in there.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Hey, stick around. We're going to come back. We're going to do the normal business of the day, including the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news unless Billy tells me otherwise. Going to cut away for a quick break here. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KN.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
It's your turn to be late now. I know.
I'm here.
Yeah, you are. Well, we're on the air right now, live, because it was
we?
my turn to.
You and I are?
Oh yeah, it was my turn to be late last time. This time it's your turn. We're just sharing.
So we're actually speaking on the air. We are on the air right now.
In theory, I mean the little bouncy, blinky lights are doing their thing. So again, I don't have any confirmation, but theory. Yeah.
Well, we ought to get it going then.
Might as well.
If in fact we're on the air, it's
Since
George
everybody showed
Brauchler
up,
back with you on the George Show. How are Doctors Richter and Snyder leaving?
As quickly as possible. They're
Somebody
doing great.
actually texted in. I wish I'd seen this. Ask them if they take Medicare and Medicaid. I wish we had done that. If Mark can find that out and let us know, we'll put that out there. I know they take TRICARE because that's me.
Yeah.
I do the TRICARE thing, so I know that they're a big patriot. So
Yeah,
that's why. Somebody else, our buddy Alexa texting, oral health impacts so much of your general and gut health. We should talk about that. That part is true too.
There was that former NFL player that died in part because of his poor dental health. That he got an infection through his mouth that then got into the rest of his body and killed him.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that just happened in the last 3 months. Yeah.
Oh, we got to find that out. Listen, do we have time to do all your voodoo?
Let's see what happens. I've got everything prepared. Let's
Let's
I'm
get
as curious
it on
as you
with
are.
a newly sponsored part of the show. It's called the Thorpe Report with BTs.
Yes, good morning. This Thorpe Report is proudly sponsored by Layers Fireplace and Patio. If you need something to keep your house warm over this winter, they've got the fireplaces for you, and they're going to set you up for the spring as well. We are going through Arctic cold temperatures next couple of days. These are the guys that can solve your problems. Layer Fireplace and Patio. They are the best in the business. Check them out, and don't tell them you heard about it here because they will just ridicule you and mock you. So it's much better if you just walk over and say hi. All righty. We have several surges of bitter cold taking aim at Colorado, so just got to stay warm, people. The Boulder police chief is stepping down from her post to take a position with a federal program. Yep, Maris Harold is going to be working for the Law Enforcement Knowledge Lab, launched by the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance in April of 2022. She'll be tasked with improving policing practices across the country. She's going to begin her role January 22nd.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
Did they say who the new chief is going to be?
Not yet, but we do have friends of the show, so I'm kind of curious.
We have a good buddy at the show
Yes.
who would be, could be, should be the chief of police.
Yeah.
That could be pretty awesome.
I know. Imagine the people we can have him arrest.
In Boulder.
The power we wield. Yes.
Wow.
Exactly. We have a man on Colorado's list of the most wanted sex offenders was apprehended by authorities in California earlier this week. It's Jamie Soto, 43. He was number 7 on the 10 most wanted sex offenders list. So we got number 7. He was wanted by the CBI and Thornton Police Department for charges stemming from February of 2021. He was convicted of attempted sexual assault on a child and second-degree assault, in addition to a 2007 conviction contributing to the delinquency of a minor and several other warrants. We have a hit-and-run driver remaining at large after a cyclist was found dead Tuesday on an embankment near Highway 6 in Edwards, according to the Colorado State Patrol. Happened Sunday between 12:20 and 2 a.m. in the morning. What a cyclist was doing out at that time, I have no idea.
Weird.
Yeah, but it's about the 165-mile post. They're looking for anybody that may know anything. Our Transportation Security Administration intercepted over 6,000 firearms at airport security checkpoints in 2023. But how many guns were we bringing to DIA? DIA had one of the highest number of airport seizures nationwide.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, and this is the crazy part: 93% of the guns they found were loaded.
Legislators.
Were loaded.
Were what?
Loaded. They had the bullets inside.
I just want to know what people are thinking when they show up. Like, did they forget it was in their pants or something?
I know, exactly right. I obviously need this on my vacation. I don't know. What are your plans? When lawmakers returned to the state capitol yesterday to start the new legislative session, much to our chagrin, leaders on both sides of the aisle called out for more civility between the legislators. Oh, that was a good one. Oh my gosh. I love when they start up the session with a joke. No matter what came first, wind or fire, they say that hurricane force gust winds blew for almost a day without stopping, and that enabled the Marshall Fire to spread. That is the finding of NOAA, not the guy with the ark. It's the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. They say that's why the fire got out of control. Yeah, they do. They say their data shows it ranged from 75 miles per hour to 115 miles per hour in the area that day. Yeah, moving it. Also, Douglas County Sheriff's Office is warning you
super smart,
Yeah.
great friend, text me after a call I didn't answer in a panic saying, I need to talk to you urgently.
Yeah.
This exact thing. Saying, I just got a call. And they said, look, there's ambient
Wow.
sounds in the background of the call that sounds like it could be a police station. They use names, you know, and she said, we were going to, she goes, it was going crazy until the guy said, now listen, there, you missed this thing. There's this warrant. We can take care of it. Hang on. I'm going to see if I can do something for you. Cuts away for a break, comes back and then says, hey, you can get a PR bond.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she heard that, she and her husband hung up because they're like, I said, dang, that's it. Because they want to let you know there's a way out of this mistake.
Yep.
And here's what it is. They use names that you can Google in the department and find this stuff out.
Jeez.
These are people who candidly, because of the impact they have on the system, if we were to catch them, I'd want to take a foot, just lop a foot right off, let you go right back to life.
Yeah, I've got a thing that I'm not always in favor of the revenge. There's part of me that likes that, but for things like this, I take some digits. I take an appendage. Yeah, absolutely.
Exploiting the old people like this who want to be rule followers, who have grown up in an environment of trust and your word matters. For these people that prey upon them, a public beating would be wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. And we can also, if we needed to, just for fun on pay-per-view, insert uncomfortable things into orifices of their body. I'm just spitballing here as far as, you know, and we could do a tier list that based on donations for the family that got scammed, what exactly we're going to use. And the more money you get, the
like
more
a fundraiser.
Exactly.
You turn it in and they get a portion of it.
It is.
And the other
And it's a win-win because, you know, we get entertainment. He learns a lesson. The scammer does, and they get the money. I want to have
the video go viral so that future scammers can look at this and say, maybe I do something different. Maybe I go work for Columbia Records.
I don't know if you know the old joke by is it John Lovitz does it. A death or ugu. You can't do it on the air, but that's the idea.
Is this like Gunga Lagunga?
No, I'm not sure about that one, but it's death or ugu. And you got to go look at that. No, it's sorry, it's Gilbert. No, it's Gilbert Godfrey. Gilbert Godfrey does it. It's
with the Savages.
Yes.
He goes, you're gonna die by Oh no. Yeah. I've heard it as Gunga Lagunga.
No. Yeah. It's no. I choose death. Great, death it is. But first, ugu. Yeah, that's what we need.
Listen, let's cut away for a break.
Actually, we can't because if we do that, we're done. Yeah, so I have no more breaks. We've done our breaking. So now we just got to pop and lock it, and we can. We can go right into the silly game. Yeah, if you want.
This is fantastic because now this means can we lead the 7 o'clock hour with with You Choose the News?
Well, what we could do right now is because I can't break away. We could do You Choose the News right now. We got enough time. Yeah, right now.
Okay, let's do it. Well, okay, good. Now, You Choose the News.
Oh, what a surprise! Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing it right now. Wow! Imagine my surprise. Now, remember, this is You Choose the News, where we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really stupid stories, giving them dumb headlines to play this fake radio news game because the people in charge have no idea we are doing this. And this, again, just a reminder, this is not sponsored by Layer Fireplace and Patio. They have asked me to read that. Okay. Now, sir, here are our headlines this morning. Headline number 1, the triumph of a government solution. Headline number 2, well, this explains a lot. Headline number 3, let's just make them all convertibles. And headline number 4, delicious assault and battery. Your headlines yet again are
delicious assault and battery.
All right,
please.
Delicious assault and battery. Here we are going to meet Alberto Derberos. He is 54 years old and recently is in Stuart, Florida, where he decides to avail himself of the local Subway shop. He walks in and asks, "Young lady, can you please make me one of your delicious hero sandwiches?" She promptly does because, as you know, they are sandwich artists. They take time and care in their work. And at the very end, though, this artist decided not to cut his foot long in half, which normally would be a good Lorena Bobbitt nut thing. But in this case, that led to an assault and battery. Mr. DeBarros promptly picked up his hero and threw it at her, striking her in the face. That'll teach her.
What?
Yes, that was following a brief verbal exchange. She called the police and he was charged with assault. Yeah.
That makes that hero a 0.
I know. It's like, hey, you want to see my foot long? Alrighty, sir. Triumph of a government solution. This explains a lot, or let's just make them all convertibles.
I think we should make them all convertibles.
We should make them all convertibles. We're flying to Tampa, Florida. It's a little spooky if you've been in the air lately. United Airlines, a flight from Sarasota to Chicago, made an emergency landing at Tampa International Airport due to, wait for it, A door that is loose. Yes.
No.
Yes, a door indicator light came on flight 2434, landed and had to do some things and looked at the door. And they said, yeah, this is something after what's recently been happening. We probably should pay attention to this. And I just want to know, with all these pieces and doors and things falling off the planes, let's just make them convertible. Just take the whole lid off. And I think that'd be pretty.
Do you think it's an annoying pinging noise like in your car when the doors are ajar? Like you think the pilots are flying and they hear ping,
yeah,
ping,
or it's that, or they get that little row that look as you're flying, and you're like, what is that sound?
And is there a picture of the plane with a door ajar?
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
little red door where they're like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Or is it a door with a little red circle and a line through it? What is it? No door, no door.
They should have that for all the seatbelts too.
Yeah. Or maybe this is the problem. Maybe it's like, your dashboard in the car, and when the little indicator light goes on, it goes bing, bing, and the pilot's like, that's a weird symbol. What does that mean? And the co-pilot's like, I don't know. And he goes, here, do you have any tape? We'll just tape over that. And that's it. That's all it is.
The one other thing I've heard flying on a plane within the last few years was a flight attendant who came on and said, we have technology here we can tell when your cell phones are on, and there's some cell phones still on. So you need to turn them off before we have to come tell you. And I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Oh, no, we've run out of time. Here comes our bumper music. Oh, no, this sucks.
No, it can't be because we're at 54.
Well, it's playing right now. Why is it playing
it shouldn't
right
be
now?
playing.
Well, it shouldn't.
That's premature.
There are a lot of things about me that are, there's a lot of things about me that are premature, but I have no idea what's happening here.
How much time do you think we have left?
Probably 10 seconds. I mean, I know.
Let's stick around, see if we come back.
See what happens.
George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to hour 2 of 4 of the George Show right here on 710 KNUS. Be with you till 10, then Chuck Kirk for a couple hours, Dennis Prager for a couple after that. That's Seb Gorka from 1, I think it's 1 to 4 or 2 to 4, and I can't remember. I'm sure Crowley's like, I gave you the lineup, but it's true. But I know that ends at 4 because we get Brandon Tatum on from 4 to 7, and then BTs and I are back tomorrow from 6 to 10 a.m. My thanks to Doctors Richter and Snyder. As always, they give up some of their time to come out here and hang out with us. I wish it was like every week we could at least get them on the phone for a segment of What's in Your Mouth or something like that. But I thought that was a great call. We ended up, too, by the way, for reasons nobody understands with the technology, losing out on that last You Choose the News. I don't know if we build that into the loser edition tomorrow, Billy, or not, but we just don't have it. Some things that took place yesterday, huge, people getting out of the race. One of them is named Bill Belichick because he got out of the NFL race big time when he was fired by the Patriots organization after 24 years. Undeniably one of the most successful football coaches in the history of the sport. The real question is going to be, was it Bill Belichick or was it Tom Brady? I mean, that's the thing that's going to haunt him. Another coach that is out is a guy named Pete Carroll. Now, he's still got a good enough reputation with the Seahawks organization that he's going to continue to play some role there, but he is no longer going to be the head coach. Those are two huge things. You would think that Pete Carroll would have gotten more credit. I realize they were 8-8 and they missed the playoffs, but you would think he would get more credit for having orchestrated his end of the greatest NFL trade disaster in history, which was the Russell Wilson trade with the Broncos. I mean, if we had the bad end of that, then he's got to have credit for the good end of that. But he's out at the Seahawks. And then, of course, the news that Nick Saban is going to retire from Roll Tide, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Also, perhaps one of the most successful college coaches in college history. Not great, by the way, as an NFL coach. When he dipped out of LSU and did that little stint in Miami, I think he proved there's just a difference there. Then he goes to Alabama. Guys is at least as successful, if not more successful, than Bear Bryant. He'll be legendary. He'll go down in history. Hopefully he'll still do those Aflac commercials with Prime, who I will continue to cheer for until he's no longer the head coach of the CU Buffs. Go Buffs. Some others, another person that dipped out of their competition was a guy named Chris Christie. Now, if I'm the first person to tell you that you haven't turned on a TV set, a radio, or your news feed, Chris Christie jumped out yesterday. I'm intrigued by the timing, by the way, because there was a lot of stuff set yesterday. There was that fifth GOP debate where they'd whittled the field down to just Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. And that's just based off of polling. And then you had Vivek having a snit over the fact that they have their own polling that shows that they met the cutoff. And then it was, well, you guys are stupid. Nobody watches TV anyway. You should turn the TV off. It's horrible. And we'll get to that sound. I think Billy in fact, you know what, Billy, maybe now's as good a time as any when we're talking Vivek Ramaswamy. He did not show up in either a Fox-sponsored town hall, as DJT did, or on the stage for the Iowa debates, but he did run an ad. And Billy, do you know if that ad was on TV or was it just social media?
My understanding is it ran on TV during the debate.
Isn't that funny? Because the way it ends. So it ran on TV during the ads. Let's give listeners a taste.
I'm Vivek Ramaswamy, and I approve this message. The mainstream media is trying to rig the Iowa GOP caucus in favor of the corporate candidates who they can control. Don't fall for their trick. They don't want you to hear from me about the truth of what really happened on January 6th, the truth about the COVID origin, the Hunter Biden laptop story, and everything else they have lied to you about. So you can fix that. Take your remote and turn this off.
He just went full Stephen Tubbs on that, which Billy pointed out to me, and I realized, oh my God, yeah, he totally ripped off Stephen Tubbs. I'm going to give him credit for having created that. But it's interesting that he would advertise on TV to say, please turn off the TV. I found that fascinating. I don't think anybody did that. But he's clearly bitter and desperate at having not been allowed on the stage. If you follow him on social media, and I do, not intentionally, but the people, Elon and the people at X, think I want to know more about Vivek, because my news feed, my little Twitter feed, is crushed with Vivek stuff. This guy has gone full on, I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say it's all conspiracy, because it's not, but this dude has definitely carved his part of the race out there, and he is now going to be the guy. And it started a while ago with this, when he was throwing punches at Haley, but this is going to be the guy standing out there on his island as, I'm the only truth seeker. I am not in the pocket of any corporate interests, because he can't attract them. And it's Haley and DeSantis. Like, he has these recurring tweets that begin with things like, here's the plot. The plot is Donald Trump will be replaced by one of two corporate candidates. And then Biden will be replaced by la, la, la. And I'm just like, dude, please, man. If that happens, I'm going to come back on air here, if they let me, of course, and say, man, I couldn't have been stupider. But my hope is that when it doesn't happen that way, he comes out on the air and says, you know what? I did not see this coming. It didn't turn out that way. But Vivek, not in the conversation. Chris Christie, however, was. He wouldn't have made the debate stage anyway, based on his polling numbers. But where he was doing well was New Hampshire. And he was coming in like third in New Hampshire. DeSantis behind him at fourth, and Vivek somewhere else back there. Actually, you know what? Vivek had 8%. I can't remember the number Christie had, but I think Vivek was behind all of them. Nonetheless, he's out of the race. Chris Christie bowed out. I think nobody ever thought he was going to win, including Chris Christie, but that wasn't his role. His role was, his role was, he was a spoiler, but it was never going to go the way that I think he wanted it to go. I don't know that he knew that Donald Trump would be as immune from criticism and having punches thrown as it. I think they thought they would goad Trump into getting on the stage with Christie. That would have been interesting, but there was no need for a guy who's 30 plus points ahead to ever do that. So Chris Christie announced yesterday that he is leaving the race. Billy has found sort of a compilation, if you will, of sound from that. Billy, what do you got?
That nobody would tell the truth in this race about what's really at stake. And no one would tell the truth about Donald Trump. Imagine just for a moment if 9/11 had happened with Donald Trump behind the desk. The first thing he would have done was run to the bunker to protect himself. He would have put himself first before this country. And anyone who is unwilling to say that he is unfit to be president of the United States is unfit themselves to be president of the United States. And it's clear to me tonight that there isn't a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign tonight for president of the United States.
Sounds like he's done talking. Is that true? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew that those were the last words Chris Christie was speaking as an official candidate. And it sounds like that. If you listen to the rest of his talk, he thunders away at Donald Trump and, does some things like asks the question, what would the founders of this country have thought of the idea of a guy who is accused of 4 separate felonies, basically? It's 90 something, but 4 separate felony cases, facing a potential felony conviction, becoming president of the United States. And he invokes the name of Washington. He invokes the name of Hamilton and some others and all that other stuff. He gives a speech that isn't uncharacteristic of what he's done on the whole campaign trail. But I know that it was particularly harsh because on the NBC analysis, folks, hang on, a point of personal privilege here. Hey, I love you, buddy. Do great things today at school, okay? And get your brother. Lawrence O'Donnell came out on this NBC analysis. Please don't ask me how I ended up getting caught up listening to these people wail away at Donald Trump. But pardon me. But Lawrence O'Donnell says, best thing I've ever heard from Chris Christie. I've never liked a single thing that he's ever said, no speech that he's ever given, except for this one. And instantly I thought, man, this must have been horrific. I mean, this must have just been a horrible speech. One other side note, by the way, about this NBC analysis, which I've never watched before, and it has what's her name? Their big lefty on MSNBC who has her big show, Billy. Her name rhymes with Maddow. Thank you. Rachel Maddow. That's correct. She kind of leads this thing. Joy Reid, my God, is there. So is Lawrence O'Donnell and a couple other people I can't name. If for people that think that Fox News is in the bag for Republicans or in the bag for Trump, and I think you can debate that, it certainly leans to the right unabashedly. These folks make Sean Hannity look like Walter Cronkite. I'm not kidding. You listen to them talk and the terms they use, the way they describe the situation. These people are so deep in the bag for Biden and the Dems. It's shocking. Fox is not the answer to this. Fox, as far right as you think Fox may be, it's not even close to what's going on the NBC debate analysis there, led by Rachel Maddow. It was shocking to me, honestly, how far left and how absolutely critical they were of all things Trump, not in the way that you and I criticize him on air, which, I'm happy to do the skepticism about the comments he makes. I'm happy to call him out when he says things that are bonkers, like I would have negotiated the Civil War. This is different than that. This is like fire and brimstone. It's an apocalypse out there kind of conversations from people who are ostensibly news people. That's kind of a big deal. So the question I think that remains from this is Chris Christie's out. Iowa's going to happen in about 5 days. New Hampshire isn't far behind. Now, New Hampshire, not a caucus. It's a primary. Haley trails Trump in a couple different polls by single digits, as little as like 7 points in one of them, 32-39. Christie was polling above 10. Christie was polling at about 12 points. And most of the polling shows that about 2/3 of his support were Haley as a second choice voters, just based, and again, it's all polling, so take it for what it's worth. But there is a real possibility here that his exit of this race is going to result in Haley having a potential shot at winning New Hampshire. I'm not telling you she's going to win New Hampshire. I'm telling you it's a potential. One thing that kind of got that a little goofed up, though, was had Chris Christie come out and endorsed Haley, and there's still time on the clock for that, I think that's a more likely outcome. But instead, if you guys didn't hear this, and Billy, I can't remember if we got any of this in or not, there was a hot mic moment there. Like when he's getting ready to take the stage to say Donald Trump is the devil and I'm not running anymore, he gets caught on mic saying some things about Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, neither of which are very complimentary. Billy, I can't remember. Did I ask you to pull that? Did you do that on? Okay, play what was, I don't think Chris Christie intended this to be recorded, and yet this has become part of the story.
Like that.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, she spent $68 million so far, just on TV. Spent $68 million so far, $59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, And she's going to get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
She hasn't even. And she's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's still going to carry Iowa, right?
Yes. Always. I talked to DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well,
listen, some of those words, you just got to be aware when you're talking to the media. I'm capable of making this mistake myself, by the way. I've only been burned one time by the media, and it's one of those one and done. She was an incredibly lefty reporter and still a very activist lefty reporter. But she ended up printing in her story some of the text messages we exchanged about a case or a topic or something that's never happened before without anybody ever getting my consent. So they're done. He's got to know better than that. And it makes me wonder if he was either reckless about it or didn't care about it. Hey, one sec, folks, point of personal privilege here. My son is asking me something. Yes. We're on the air, Graham, right now. You are. I love. Okay. He came by to say goodbye. Do great things at school. I love you. I'll pick you up after school. Okay, buddy? Water, buddy. Love you. Do great things. See you, buddy. Sorry about that. That's just how it happens when you're a dad and you're doing the radio from not in the studio. So I got a couple boys heading out the door, and I always just want to wish them well. On the Chris Christie thing, those comments kind of take some of the wind out of the sail for Nikki Haley, who I think if she wins New Hampshire, does it make a difference? I don't know. I don't know that it matters. The debate last night between DeSantis and Haley, and Billy's got some sound for that. We're going to play it, of course, but does that debate matter? And does it change now that Christie is out of it? Like, I think Chris Christie getting out of this race gives Haley an inside track to potentially upending Trump in New Hampshire. And he's horrified by it. You can tell that because of all the anti-Haley ads that have been running. If she wins in New Hampshire, is that it? Is that the crack? Is that the fissure in there that causes people to reevaluate who the Republican nominee is? I want to believe that we can have an honest competition through the rest of the primary. But I'm not sure it matters. She wins New Hampshire, then what? Then we're going to, South Carolina after that? That's her home state. If she doesn't win South Carolina, isn't the narrative from Trump? She can't even win the state she was a two-time governor from. So I don't know. Or is this the momentum builder? Let's pretend for a moment, for purpose of this, that this is a real opportunity here. Could you support Nikki Haley for president of the United States, for nominee for president of the United States, knowing she's going to take down Biden by 17 points if the latest poll is accurate? 303-696-1971. Dwayne from Divide, you're on 710. What do you think, Dwayne?
Oh, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Well, I look at it this way. Chris Christie should have just taken his 2-foot hoagie and take his slime ball to see a puss attitude and get the hell out of the race a long time ago. He was just there to be ugly and didn't really prove anything. Haley doesn't have a shot in New Hampshire. I don't believe she'll get.
Does she not have a
points.
shot? I mean, if you believe any of the last two polls that have her within single digits, they would suggest she has a shot. And if it's true that 2/3 of Christie's supporters approve of Haley as their second choice, what if she wins? Does it make any difference to you? If she wins New Hampshire, is that just an anomaly? Is that a blip?
Like I say, I believe she will lose by at least 8 points. Tag it down, and we'll go from there. Trump's got too much momentum. And with the situation down in Georgia with Fani and her $695,000 boyfriend running all over the world right now, but that situation, you haven't spoken about that. I believe that Trump's momentum is just going to build here. Christie's got too many issues right now with the fact she has made millions post being governor and hanging out with people.
Haley's made millions.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So I mean, it's like I don't see too many people jumping up and down for her. And poor Mr. DeSantis, a really wonderful man. I really believe that he's probably one of the finest people that could ever be met on this earth. And his wife as well has just no power with the audiences to get anywhere. And if I had my choice, it would have been DeSantis, Swami there together. I think that would have been a very powerful ticket at one time. But DeSantis never hit the keys. He never hit the right spot to get anywhere.
Well, I agree with you on that. I think in the post-mortem on this, and there's going to be a post-mortem on Ron DeSantis because he's going to get crushed in Iowa. And if he takes third in Iowa, after all that investment, I think it's over. He has a Chris Christie speech coming up here in the next week or so. But having said that, when you say you think that the DeSantis Ramaswamy ticket would have been the winner one, talk about that at all. Talk about Vivek as a VP guy, because maybe Trump's considering him.
Well, I believe he should. The situation I see, Ramaswamy has the biggest issue that he's not going to take in with the evangelicals. And I think a lot of people are just, I don't want to say this wrongly, but the little brown man is not something that a lot of evangelicals are going to jump through hoops for. I like his beliefs, his commentary. He's very Donald-esque as far as policy goes, without all the hyperbole and nuclear bombs that go off around Donald Trump.
He's also got he's willing to go down the road of some of the real sensitive points with the grassroots that touch upon some of the conspiracy stuff here and there, whether it's, hey, I want to tell the truth about January the 6th or some of that. In fact, hang on for a minute, Dwayne. Billy, you've got that thing queued up, the sound from his commercial. Yeah, play that and we'll get Dwayne to react.
I'm Vivek Ramaswamy, and I approve this message. The mainstream media is trying to rig the Iowa GOP caucus in favor of the corporate candidates who they can control. Don't fall for their trick. They don't want you to hear from me about the truth of what really happened on January 6th, the truth about the COVID origin, the Hunter Biden laptop story, and everything else they have lied to you about. So you can fix that. Take your remote and turn this off.
What do you think of that, Dwayne? When you listen to that, and you're a Vivek Lycan guy for VP, what do you hear that you like?
Well, I like the fact he's got a spine, for one, and that he's at least sitting there bringing things up. Going a little bit too conspiratorial for me on a few options there, but at least he knows what buttons to hit. I mean, the Democrats have already got everything figured out. Insurrectionist, he's a dictator. They've already got their plans to go with what they're going to say. And I could not believe that people are going to sit there and follow along with this, but they will. But after what Hunter Biden did yesterday at the
similar
at Congress, I mean, if anybody had the cojones to sit there and step in, Thompson was the only other guy that would sit there with all those people and give that look. But between Fahmy there in Georgia and Hunter little thing, I believe Trump right now is going to get a second wind that's going to just push him along faster than the decompression in that Alaska Airlines plane. So as far as wind goes.
Dwayne, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Dwayne's line is open at 303-696-1971. What do you think about that? Is a foregone conclusion, like all of this is just a huge distraction from what is bound to happen, and that is Trump is going to steamroll his way through the primary? Now, as an aside, you remember there are certain extremist portions of the Republican Party here in Colorado that want to hijack the primary and simply anoint President Trump as the nominee rather than have him go through the process of earning it. That doesn't sound particularly American to me or particularly Republican, which, because we're the party of iron sharpens iron, I don't know of any other engagements where we would look and say, well, we know who's going to win, so let's not have the battle. Let's just give someone the trophy. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. But in New Hampshire, they're not going to do that. And in New Hampshire, my guess is there's going to be a new poll that comes out today, or they're probably in the field today, right now. And in the field is the term they use for when they start hitting people on their cell phones or wherever else to get these polling. My guess is they're in the field today, maybe tomorrow, a 2-day spread. And sometime either tomorrow or Saturday, maybe they wait till Monday for news. I don't know. But we're going to get a new poll that shows what does New Hampshire look like in a post-Christie campaign world. And I think it's going to benefit Nikki Haley. And maybe, I mean, this would be the big explosive news. And of course, all the mainstream media, left-leaning legacy types would make this the lead story for days. And that would be Nikki Haley leading Trump in New Hampshire. If that's true from polling, expect that to lead the news. Of course, we're going to talk about it on Monday when it happens, but that's my sense of where this thing is going. And if Nikki Haley wins New Hampshire and they go to South Carolina, where she was governor, and she can pull off some kind of, whether it's an upset or win a very close second. First off, by the time they get to South Carolina, I don't think Ron DeSantis is in the race anymore. I'm not convinced, by the way, Ron DeSantis stays in the race for the New Hampshire primary. If he comes in third place or a very distant second next week in Iowa, it is over. There's just simply no reason for him to hang on anymore. And who does he endorse? I mean, Chris Christie said, I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm just going to crap talk him. But who does Ron DeSantis endorse? I don't know. But I don't think it's Nikki Haley. Pretty positive it ain't Nikki Haley. If there's some other future for Ron DeSantis in politics, I don't think it's endorsing Nikki Haley in this particular election cycle. I'm just not sure. I don't know how this thing turns out, but we are starting to see the field whittled down to just two. And my prediction is by the time we get to South Carolina, it is a Donald Trump, Nikki Haley universe. Does Vivek self-fund him, his way into hanging around and never being on the stage, but always nipping at people's heels on social media? Maybe he could be that guy. But this is going to be a Donald Trump, Nikki Haley universe in this time next week. This time next week is my best guess. And I'm not an expert on this. I'm just guessing based on what I'm seeing. We'll play some sound from the DeSantis Haley thing. I'd love to get your thoughts on who had the better of it. And does it matter? Does it matter? Or is this thing over? As we've talked about periodically for many, many months now. 303-696-1971. We're going to cut away for a break. Not before I tell you about something called UltraCur. UltraCur, and it's spelled a little funny because it has like an umlaut, the two periods above the U there. UltraCur is a product Billy and I have taken, and not just for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. We've taken this thing for weeks. It is a product that is based on curcumin, a specialized formula that is patented. It's all natural. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. There's a whole bunch of health benefits that I can't run through in the short time that I have, but you can find them out by going to getultranow.com. Getultranow.com. While you're sitting around right now, waiting for us to come back from the break, just Google it. Just take a look at it and see this curcumin stuff. I don't know why I didn't know about this before. This stuff is kind of magic in a way, but these folks have figured out a way to amplify its benefits through this patented thing. You can go get a 3-day free 3-day sample to try this thing out at your natural grocers. You just got to find the vitamin manager. In fact, you must find the vitamin manager to get this free sample. You can get a free sample too. Nobody knows this off the website, but I'm telling you, you can get another free sample for a loved one so that they can try it out too. My guess is, like everybody else, you're going to experience some benefits, and like half of everybody else, you'll experience them within less than 48 hours, and then you'll go get the rest of the stuff. Check them out at getultranow.com, but go to that natural grocers and ask the vitamin manager for your free 3-day sample. When we come back, it's going to be you, me, the text, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
And anyone who is unwilling to say that he is unfit to be president of the United States is unfit themselves to be president of the United States. And it's clear to me tonight that there isn't a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign tonight for president of the United States.
George Brauchler back with you, 710 KNUS. That's Chris Christie yesterday suspending his campaign. There will be a measurable impact on the New Hampshire primary. We don't know what it is yet. If Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina and former ambassador under President Trump to the United Nations, if she's able to pull this thing off and win, does it matter? Does it make any difference? Is it the big game changer, or is it just an anomaly that is New Hampshire? Some folks here texting in. Jesus was probably a little brown man. Come on, man. That's, I think, a reference to Dwayne calling in. Here's another. Vivek put out video saying that he thinks Ron DeSantis is going to run with Nikki Haley as her vice president and that they're going to team up to try to take out Trump. Remember, Vivek right now, and infinitely smarter than I am, younger, richer, more successful, all the things I need to say to acknowledge that he's just a better human being than I am. But he's guessing, man, and he's guessing for purposes of trying to gin up support and interest. At this point, he has to know there is zero chance he's going to be the Republican nominee. He's likely known that since the moment he got in the race. But in a Trump-like fashion, I'm not sure his continued presence in this race is for the purposes of becoming president. Guy has, in a short period of time, elevated his name ID to a stratospheric level in terms of American politics. Think about this. 6, 7, 8 months ago, did you know who the hell Vivek Ramaswamy was? I didn't. I didn't know who he was. This cat is now in conversations with real legitimate candidates for president, and he's not going away. This guy's smart enough to play a long game. And that long game is whether it's in the Trump administration, which I could see something like that happening, or to play for 4 years down the road. This guy isn't going anywhere. He's got 1.1 people following him on Twitter now. That's legit influence right there. But this stuff about Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley are going to team up. Could it happen? Sure. Do I think it's going to happen? They sure don't like each other. Now, some folks are going to say, whoa, go back to 1980, Brauchler. Take a look at Mr. Voodoo economics guy, George W. Bush, thundering away at Ronald Reagan. They ended up partnering up for 2 hugely successful terms from 81 to 89, followed by Bush becoming president until January of 93. All true, all true. So could it happen? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? No. And if DeSantis doesn't come out and endorse Haley, I don't think it happens. But again, I don't know. I mean, some folks have said, we had this conversation a little bit ago. Do you remember it was people speculating that maybe Haley would be Trump's running mate? And then, of course, Trump's son came out and said, over my dead body, or I'll have a word on that, or I'll choke someone out, or something like that. I will take money from Russians or something. I don't think that's going to happen either. I don't think a Trump-Haley ticket makes a lot of sense, and not for her either. She popped smoke as ambassador, a couple years into this thing. I think she could see the writing on the wall and thought, maybe I don't want to get penced here and wear all the downside of being associated with Trump. And, oh, by the way, he hates you too, which now she just has the hate part of it. So I don't know, 303-696-1971. They ended up being on the stage yesterday for this Iowa debate. And it was just the two of them, DeSantis and Haley. Billy has found some sound that's kind of a compilation of what they've said. Did you watch it? Did anybody out there watch this thing? I didn't. I had friends that did. They texted me while I was at the Avs game. Hey, are you watching this? No, I wasn't watching it. Some folks thought DeSantis did better than he had done. Strongest case yet. And yet a couple of the people that texted me were like, I still think Haley got the better of him. And that's what the Drudge poll report thing says if you go to drudge.com as well. Billy, can you play what you've got so far?
To pursue his issues. Nikki Haley's running to pursue her donors' issues. I'm running to pursue your issues.
So what we're going to do is, rather than have him go and tell you all these lies, you can go to DeSantisLies.com. It will cover the fact that he's only mad about the donors because the donors used to be with him, but they're no longer with him now. And that's because he's upset about the fact that his campaign is exploding.
The difference between Nikki Haley and me, I listened to that litany of stuff. I debated the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. I thought he lied a lot. Nikki Haley gives him a run for his money, and she may even be more liberal than Gavin Newsom is.
I wish Donald Trump was up here on this stage. He's the one that I'm running against. He's the one that I wish would be here. He needs to be defending his record.
Do not trust Nikki Haley with illegal immigration. That's like having the fox guard the hen house. She's weak on immigration. She's bankrolled by people who want open borders. And she said there shouldn't be a limit on immigration. You should work with corporate CEOs.
We have to realize my parents came here legally. They came the right way 50 years ago. They put in the time, they put in the price. They are offended by what's happening on the border. But let me tell you why Ukraine should matter. First of all, I don't think we should give cash to any country, friend or foe, because you can't follow it. You can't hold it accountable. I don't think we need to put troops on the ground, and Ukrainians want to win this themselves. But dictators always do what they say they're going to do.
This is the UN way of thinking, that we're somehow globalists and we have unlimited resources to do. I think here's the problem. You can take the ambassador out of the United Nations, but you can't take the United Nations out of the ambassador.
Do you believe Governor Haley is sufficiently pro-life?
I think she's been confused on the issue. I think she's trying to speak to different groups with different things. But when she says things like pro-lifers need to stop talking about throwing women in jail, that's a trope. No one I've ever met thinks that that's something that's appropriate.
These fellas don't know how to talk about abortion. I've said over and over again, the Democrats put fear in women on abortion, and Republicans have used judgment. And the tropes that you want to talk about, you keep saying, where is anybody talking about putting a woman in jail or giving her the death penalty? South Carolina. There is legislation right now that would put a woman in jail if she got an abortion.
Thank you, Governor.
That's why I say
Thank
that.
you. What do you admire about Governor Haley?
Well, look, I think that, at the United Nations, I did think that she spoke out strongly on some key issues, and I appreciated that. I also appreciate the state of South Carolina.
Governor Haley, what do you admire about Governor DeSantis?
I think he's been a good governor.
Okay.
That's it. That is a great compilation that Billy's got there of the debate that took place yesterday on the stage there for Iowa. Just DeSantis, just Haley. Did you watch it? What are your takeaways from that? 303-696-1971. Is this it for Ron DeSantis? A week from now, are we talking about the campaign that just never seemed to get off the ground? Or does he have a new birth of life here and spirit after Iowa? If you're asking me to bet, man, I think Ron's done. And it's not because of his performance yesterday. There's something about whoever managed his campaign, and maybe it's candidate driven, and we should talk about that too. They just couldn't ever find their footing. They never capitalized on the momentum they had before he announced, which is crazy because he has been such a great governor. We can talk about that too. Listen, we got Joan on the line, some others calling in at 303-696-1971. Let's go away for a break first, and then come back and we'll have more time to chat with you before we get to that 8 o'clock hour, when we'll be joined by the Assistant Minority Leader for the General Assembly's House. That's a Republican. Her name's Rose Puglisi, friend of the show. We'll talk to her about what the Democrats have revealed. Later today, folks, 11 a.m., State of the State address by a guy named Jared Polis. I'm not sure what he's going to pitch, but my guess is ain't none of it good for you or for me, as he continues to try to develop whatever traction he needs to be a viable candidate in 2026. It'll be interesting, but that's at 11 a.m. We'll get a chance to talk about that, and we'll get some sound from that tomorrow. Hey, a guy out there who's doing great work on behalf of those who just simply can't fight hard enough for themselves, and that's Dan Kaplis, who stands up for victims on a day-to-day basis inside courtrooms all over the state of Colorado. He and Barbara Wahid, his partner, and they have a great team that's around them. I don't want you to get the feeling it's just two guys in a room. First off, Dan's offices are fantastic, super modern, fantastic setup in terms of being, you can tell, and I'm a guy that's done a lot of trial work, you can tell These are guys that are focused on setting up an office in a way that not only allows them to have the conversations they need to have with victims and the clients that they represent, but they have these places set up where they can have the depositions that drive a lot of civil litigation. A lot of people think that the courtroom is the end-all be-all, the trial, for holding insurance companies accountable. That could be it. And of course, no one's better than Dan in the courtroom. I mean, just the proven track record and the multi-million-dollar verdicts after multi-million-dollar verdicts. Yes. But a lot of folks don't realize that most of these cases get settled out. And if you're going to bring the insurance company to its knees, to the reality of you need to make my client whole, depositions kind of drive that whole conversation. When you get witnesses and you get experts on the record and you get an expert cross-examiner, an expert examiner like Dan Kaplan, that information shows up in something called a transcript. That transcript becomes a fact. It is an issue that insurance companies dread. And that is, oh my gosh, you've locked my client down or whoever they're insured into this horrific story that has just now been disproven by Dan or Bobber. That's the other way to do it. A lot of folks can't do that. A lot of folks just don't have the repetitions, the experience, and the expertise that Dan does. Call him up if you need him, 303-770-5551. Yeah, you could go with someone else who shows up on a train or a bus or a billboard. But that's where their focus is in trying to bring business in the door through trains, buses, and billboards. Not this guy. This guy is as word of mouth as anything. And I'm just proud to talk for him because he used to be my boss 100 years ago. 303-770-5551, dankapluslaw.com. Kaplis is C-A-P-L-I-S, dankapluslaw.com. When we come back, Joan, you, me, texts, other calls, George Brauchler, 710, KNUS. Hey-o, George Brauchler back with you here, finishing up the 7 o'clock hour before we get to Assistant Minority Leader Rose Puglisi from something called the General Assembly. They all got back into business, air quotes on business. Yesterday, State of the State address from Governor Polis this morning at 11 a.m. That'll be a great conversation. Let me tell you about 2024 from the aspect of dude stuff, right? You may be at a place in life where you've noticed you just have a little bit of less of a spring in your step. Maybe you don't have the energy or the drive to go get that workout. I think about this stuff all the time. The sleep is off. You just don't feel like you. It is a natural part of life for men to go through periods of time where maybe that testosterone level, which is so critically important, is just lower than it should be. Well, it doesn't have to stay that way. This isn't the 1700s. You can call up Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic and get a solution. And that solution is life-changing in a positive way. Now, they have a quiz on their website, RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. 10 questions, true, false. It's takes you less than 2 minutes. And then what that answer, if it leads you to setting up an appointment, here's the thing. It's only a $99 appointment as it is, but they will give you that towards a credit towards the actual service that they provide. They'll do the low T stuff. They'll do the PSA stuff. They'll do anything that they can regarding these issues for men to help put them in a position to better enjoy their lives. Call them today. So it's just a phone call. Ask all the questions you want. 720-440-7900. 720-440-7900. Tell them George told you to call. Let's go right to the phone lines at 303-696-1971. It's Joan on 710. Joan, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Just okay? I mean, what's the deal? Normally you're on cloud nine.
There's lots of things happening. Dogs dying.
Oh no! Oh, Joan, that's the worst. I'm so sorry.
In
I'm so sorry.
Ecuador, there's lots of things going on. I am calling to tell you I don't think Nikki Haley will win in New Hampshire.
Really? Okay, talk about that.
Well, I just think that probably Ron DeSantis will come out ahead of her in Iowa. People in Iowa are very aware of East Coast influences, and if she's running ahead in New Hampshire, they'll probably stick it to her.
Who's going to stick it to her? I didn't understand that. Who will stick it to her? New Hampshireites?
No, Iowans. She's already told New Hampshire they have to correct what Iowa is going to do.
I saw that. I thought that was an unforced error on her part for sure. That was a comment that she made. I think she thought she was in a safe space too. Do you think that DeSantis is second place in Iowa? And if so, by how much? And does it matter? Is he done next week?
I think he'll be second place, and I think he'll beat Haley by maybe 2 points. I think that everybody who knows anything that will know that it'll be historical in Iowa. I'm pretty sure that Trump will come in at least with 50%, if not 52%.
What if he doesn't? What if he comes in at less than 50%? Does it mean anything?
No, he will come in with a very high thing, but I'm just telling you, I think it will be historic. It won't make any difference.
It could be, but if for some reason more than 50% of Republican caucus goers say we'd like somebody other than Trump, is that a sign?
No.
Not a message at all. If Trump loses New Hampshire, is that a sign?
I don't. Jared, I listen to you and you go, and if this happens, and if this happens, and if this happens, and I'm sitting here going, but none of that's going to happen. And on top of that, we're looking at what's happening in Georgia with his trial melting down like there's no tomorrow, and the corruption.
What do you mean the trial's melting down? Joan, what do you mean the trial's melting down in Georgia? I'm missing something.
Yeah, you're missing that the GA gave $763 million to her special prosecutor boyfriend.
So you think that means the trial's going to melt down? It's not going to happen?
Yes, I absolutely believe it's going to melt down and not going to happen.
I understand the conspiracy theory aspect of this, but why would it derail a prosecution? What does it have to do with the merits of the case?
Well, one of the things is that they have an invoice, and the invoice is for the special prosecutor going to the Washington White House to talk.
Okay, listen, those are important things to uncover, but what does that have to do with the facts of the case? You're talking about the motives for prosecution.
They are making a case for RICO, which nobody has ever does for RICO, because RICO was a mob scene thing. And if you make a case for RICO on Trump, you're going to have to make a case for RICO with
Joan,
Biden.
Thanks for the call. Thanks for the call, Joan. We're out of time. Real quickly, though, she did it for the school district out there, too, so not just the mob. Hey, stick around. Rose Puglisi when we come back. George Brauchler, 710, KNUS. Welcome back to the halfway point through the Thursday 11 January show of the George Show at 710 KNUS. Yesterday, under the Gold Dome up north there in Denver, they got underway with the General Assembly. This is the one that is going to be the last opportunity for the Democrats to do something truly crazy before ballots go out for the 2024 election. Somebody who is there not just as an observer, even though she's part of the 300, part of the 19 in the House, but someone who's there helping to lead the resistance and the fight for anything good is Rose Puglisi. She's the assistant minority leader out of El Paso County. Rose, thanks for taking time out of your morning to speak with us.
Oh, thank you, George. I really, really appreciate you having me on, as always.
Now, listen, are you in the car?
So, honest to God, I left at an hour and a half early. It's supposed to take me an hour and 15, and I still can't get to the Capitol on time with all the traffic. So, we'll keep trying.
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. Let me start with this. Yours was one of the names bandied about instantly upon the retirement announcement by Doug Lamborn for CD5 as someone who would be a great congressman, congresswoman, congressperson, congressy. I don't know what the term is anymore, for CD5. Have you given that thought, and what decisions have you made?
The House really needs me right now, and I believe that we have a lot of fights still in Colorado. So at this time, I'm not going to be running for the 5th Congressional, but, you never know what the future holds. But right now, I'm incredibly focused on the House and making sure we can bring our policies forward right here in Colorado.
I think you'd be great in Congress. I will say selfishly, from the parent standpoint, you must have gone through the analysis of, I've got 2 kids at home. I still have 2 at home. And that weighs on me. The idea that, one, I think we want people in Congress who have kids. You know what I mean? And kids that are going through the ages of your kids and my kids. But it's just so contraindicated by the demands of being an effective parent. I don't know how anybody does it.
I had my first, my daughter on the campaign trail of my very first campaign for county commissioner, and my little guy, my 2nd year in office. They don't know a world outside of this. And so while that's, always a factor to consider, I think the House and the needs of the House right now and getting the House in order is really my priority.
Well, my sense of it is that it's just going to be super easy, this 120-day session, because, yeah, I'm kidding. Tell us what has gone on in the first day that is foreshadowing for what's to come here.
I think what we're going to see, normally you see an election year that the majority party, the Democrats, would be moderating, right? And not putting forward the most extreme policies. I am not hearing, nor am I seeing right now that is what this session is going to look like. I believe they're going to put, I know. And I guess we'll see what the gamble looks like, right, in the November election. But I think the most progressive policies they can push forward is what they're going to continue to do this session. I think there's going to be a lot of very big fights at the Capitol. And, we've only seen just the tip of the iceberg of what they can do with such a large majority. So elections have consequences. I do believe it'll help Republicans in November. But in the meantime, what will Coloradans have to suffer as these policies go through? And I think people, when we're talking to people, they want balance. They really want to restore balance. And I think the Democrats are seeing that. And so they're going to go very extreme to get their policies through this session.
Can we talk about a couple things in particular? Last year, as you know, you were
Sure.
right there for the fight. The governor had come out and basically said, I want to hijack local control over development decisions because the people in Denver are smarter than everybody and they have a housing crisis they've created and everyone else has to make up for it. Are we going to see that again? Did they tip their hand already and say, yep, we're going down that road?
Absolutely. The governor consistently talks about housing. The speaker in her address yesterday spoke about housing. And so basically what we've heard is they're going to break up that bill. It does look like potentially the governor is at least listening to the fact of incentivizing local governments as opposed to treating them as if they don't understand their own communities. I do hope that he and the Democrats bring more of a statewide perspective. I will say they have reached out to me for my opinions. I haven't seen their bills though. So whether or not they incorporated some of the suggestions I've made is still yet to be seen. But there will be a slew of housing bills. We want to make sure that they're doing it right. If you're going to do it, let's make sure we do it right.
When you talk about them reaching out, but you haven't seen the bills, a couple of things. One, I guess I'm heartened by the fact that they would reach out, even if it was just pro forma, because you are one of a couple legislators who have also been commissioners who have some sort of idea of how statewide stuff impacts local people. But how do you not see the bills? Have they dropped any bills yet? And did they tell you in advance, hey, let's work together on this? Or are you as surprised as we are about what hits?
So for the most part, and like I said, they a couple of legislators really reached out right after session ended and said, okay, obviously you have a different perspective on land use. I'm also a county attorney who does a lot of land use work. And so they've asked for my opinion. We've heard a little bit about what they're doing, but in the end, it wasn't like they're like, here's a bill draft. Would you sign on for this? Or could you give us recommendations? So we'll see what comes through. I don't think all of it will be bad. I just think that understanding that the whole state is different, and George, you traveled the state probably as much as I do. The whole state is different, and trying to do this one size fits all on housing is just not right for Colorado. And so I do hope that they are going to work with local governments, because every community is different. And it's not just like rural versus urban. Colorado Springs is very different than Denver. And so we need to make sure those local communities are engaged and able to put forward the policies that best serve their people.
The Dems can't help themselves, especially with a supermajority, and I can't blame them for trying to do this, but they're always going to make a run at the social stuff because they think it's a wedge issue that benefits them on the ballot. One of those issues is abortion. Have they made it known whether or not they're going to seek to go to the ballot with a constitutional amendment that would enshrine in our Constitution this liberalist of liberal abortion laws?
I've only heard speculation at this point. Again, haven't seen a bill yet, but I have heard that there is discussions on the Democrat side and potentially a bill coming forward to put, legalizing abortion to the level that we have in Colorado in the Constitution. So yet to be seen, but definitely on the table for them.
How about guns?
And guns. I heard just a little bit yesterday about a plethora of gun legislation that's going to be coming forward that will really significantly hamper our right to bear arms that is guaranteed by the United States Constitution. And so I think we should be ready for those issues coming forward. Again, this will probably
what have
be
you
the
heard
most
about, though?
extreme agenda.
And I know you haven't seen bill language, Rose, but what have you heard about? What sort of things do they want to tackle?
There's a bill, something around safe spaces, where basically you can only, as I understand it, and again, this, I have not seen it, but where you only basically will be able to carry a gun or have a gun in your home and not outside. And I think, that's going to significantly abridge our constitutional rights, something our caucus will fight very hard against. But, more waiting periods, potentially more age restrictions. I think
My God,
what we saw last
what's
year,
the age now? What are they going to say? 35?
I'm
say?
really not sure. But again, I haven't seen any of these bills, but this is what we're hearing around the Capitol building.
It's interesting. I presume there's going to be some effort by Epps et al. To push for another AR ban. And I got to believe that that's coming. That feels like that would be a Senator Tom Sullivan kind of thing as well. I'm interested to see where they go with this, especially heading into 2024. They have a luxury here, Rose, and you know that there are no statewide candidates on the ballot in 2024. No one has to suffer at the statewide level the repercussions for the nonsense that they put out now. And they know that folks are just largely uneducated, most of your voters, and have short attention spans. I'm not knocking them. That's just the reality of the world we've had for 200 years here. And that is, you can't stay on top of all this stuff. And these people can run a bunch of jive bills through the House and the Senate, have the governor sign them, and count on the fact that the next time they have to stand for election, it will be hard for people to convince voters that what they've done is nonsense. How are you guys going to attack this? Maybe attack is the wrong word. How are you going to defend against this?
Well, there's a couple of strategies and tools that even the minority has, but one of the issues that I think hits everybody, we spend a lot of time, more time personally than I think is necessary on these social issues. But when you talk to people, everyday people, like you're saying, George, in the grocery stores, on the street, affordability is the number one issue for them, outside of the border, actually. But we can't control the border issues in Colorado. But affordability, right? And so when people get their property tax bills, and I was actually really surprised, I was with the governor at an event yesterday, and then obviously the speaker in her speech, and they're kind of embracing what they did on property tax relief. And I was like, well, when people open up their bills and see that they got very nominal property tax relief, and we'll make sure to distinguish between what their local governments did and what the state did, Democrats are leaning in, which I find to be really interesting, and I think a really good talking point for the normal everyday people who really are just trying to make ends meet. They're trying to provide for their families in Colorado, and I think that's where we will have a huge advantage.
Well, to that end, HH got crushed at the ballots because voters weighed in, and then the legislature said, oh, well, we'll just do it ourselves and split it up into the 4 bills. Is there any talk of any other meaningful tax relief for property owners?
So Representative Bottoms, Senator Kirkmeyer, and I have a bill to reduce the income tax rate to 4%. And we tried to run that during special session. If you remember, George, the governor, when we did our debate, had really leaned into that. And then afterwards said, well, you're going to have to get 20 Democrats to sign on to it. And then I said, well, I don't actually need to get 20 Democrats, Governor. If this is such a great idea, you should get 20 Democrats as the leader of the Democrat Party in Colorado. And so it'll be curious to see if there's any appetite to reduce the income tax rate. Because again, as you know, George, that'll keep more money in people's pockets. They'll be able, you really want property tax relief, renter relief, give people back more of their money, or let them keep more of their money so that the government doesn't take it and they have to wait for refunds. And then you see the political games we all do that the Democrats play with your TABOR refunds. We wouldn't need to do some of that if people were to keep their money outright.
We're talking with Rose Puglisi, Assistant Minority Leader for the House GOP in our State General Assembly. We know that there's going to be some budget issues. I know that this sounds crazy to some who are like, weren't we just fighting over what to do with these big TABOR refunds? But a lot of that COVID money that the feds had been throwing at us is drying up, is going away. Have you heard of what the budget issues may be and where that shortfall, if any, is going to come from?
Well, here's the problem, George. And, when I turned out as county commissioner in that interim period before I ran for the legislature, I was talking about this. You have this great influx of money, federal money outside, the taxpayers' money coming into the state. And I warned against the state and the governor continuing to add more departments and add more programs, because what happens is once you add those programs, then you've inflated the budget. Then when that money goes away, how are you going to pay for all these different programs? And so I do think they're going to have a huge problem because, they were flush with money and now they're not. I personally, and I've said this for years, the state doesn't have a revenue problem, it has a prioritization problem. And if we were to actually prioritize the state budget as to the proper role of government, the things that we should be funding, and defund the things that we shouldn't be, there would be plenty of money within existing resources in order to provide for the people in the way that they expect us to do, again, according to the proper role of government. I don't know that the Democrats have that appetite, but that's what we should be doing.
I know that you are laser focused on the next 119 days State of the State address later this morning. In fact, within a couple hours, I know you'll be there. What are your expectations from the governor? Have they given any indication? You know, sometimes like on the State of the Union, they'll float the text a couple hours early. Do you guys get to know what the governor is going to say?
So we heard that the governor was going to be sharing his speech or talking points with us yesterday. As of last night, we still have not received them. Obviously not in the office yet. So we'll see if that has come, but I have seen no indication that it has. I think we'll be ready to respond. I anticipate I'll be curious to see if the governor leans in his State of the State on property tax. Because to be honest with you, the worst thing that could happen is for the governor to interfere yet again on property tax and make it worse for the people of Colorado than he already has.
Do you expect the legislature to do anything with this migrant crisis Denver has invited upon itself?
You know, I was on a call the other day. It was, kind of a pre-session Zoom, and that issue came up. And there were some prominent Democrats on that Zoom with me, and it didn't sound like it. Now, that doesn't mean it won't. I'm just saying it didn't sound like from that conversation that they saw a role yet for the state. And we always say this: the less the state does, sometimes the better. So I'm not sure, and I'm not sure where they would get the resources to help all of these migrants. But it'll be interesting to see how they tackle it, if they tackle it this session.
Are you up for re-election this year? I think you are.
I am every 2 years.
Like, yes, you've got to be on the ballot. Can I ask you a little bit about that?
Sure.
How would you describe the state of our party?
I think, the Democrats are infighting so much right now that, which we've not normally seen out in public the way that we're seeing right now. I think Republicans have a great opportunity if they seize it. I think bringing these affordability issues, the issues that affect our families every day, I think those are great issues for Republicans. And I think we can make a great case that the Democrats have failed in governing. And I hope, I really, truly do, that the effort to restore balance comes from our party. So I see a lot of opportunity. Obviously, we have 3 congressional races up, which, is somewhat unheard of. And we've got such great candidates in different districts running. I do see that the future of our party is bright.
You feel like these races that you're not in at the moment, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, I don't know that anybody could see this. Do you see those races as being a litmus test, if you will, on the future of the party?
I do think we will see more of what the direction of our party is, what our people really want in these upcoming elections. Absolutely. Again, I think we have great candidates that bring very different perspectives. And I do think, depending on how those all shake out, you'll see where the Republican Party is going and what our opportunities are going forward.
Final question for you as you pull into the Capitol there. When you're having your daily coffee with Representatives Hernandez and Epps, what do you guys talk about? Have you had a chance to sit down and chat with them about, I don't know, the world?
They're one of the absolute honors of being in leadership is that most of my conversations have to do with leadership, decorum in the chamber, making sure that we all feel safe in our chamber, which I will say Republicans did not feel safe yesterday during this Palestinian protest in the middle of opening session, and we all walked out because I think safety is our top priority right now. And I think those are the conversations we need to continue to have as we're moving forward this session.
Can you just quickly describe that? I saw some news reports on it, and a little bit of social media feed, but what did the I Hate Jew crew do up there at the legislature yesterday?
In the gallery, there were some protesters, as we've seen throughout special session as well, Palestinian protesters. And so, that disruptive nature really does not allow for good, solid conversations to be, going forward. And, while I appreciate, and I really truly do appreciate Colorado State Patrol and their efforts to keep us safe, Republicans still don't feel safe at the Capitol. We don't feel safe in the chamber. And so I do think that that's a challenge that Democrat leadership is going to have to step up and really make sure that they address, so that going forward, I mean, are we going to have a Palestinian protest every single day? And what are they doing to make sure that doesn't happen so we can actually conduct business for the people of Colorado?
Well, and as you know, the solution to the crisis in Israel and Gaza rests in the hands of the Colorado General Assembly. You have the power to change whatever's going on all those thousands of miles away. It's just this political performance art that takes place on a near daily basis. I keep thinking it's going to die and we're going to get back to just hating each other, but I know there were calls for civility, but that's not going to happen, Rose. I mean, I imagine there's going to be a grab the popcorn moment on a weekly basis, maybe more than that out there under the Gold Dome. And I just want to be able to get you back on the radio to describe it.
Oh, absolutely, George. Anytime. I really appreciate everyone who's reached out with thoughts and prayers as we started legislative session yesterday. Stick with us. I think Republicans have a great opportunity in this session and going forward in November of 2024.
That's Rose Puglisi. She is the superstar assistant minority leader of the House. She is going into the belly of the beast right now. She will also be, I think, front and center probably for the State of the State address. I wish we could carry portions of that thing live here, but it doesn't happen until 11 a.m. We'll get some sound and cut it up and talk about it tomorrow as well. Listen, let's cut away for a break. I'm anxious to hear a couple things. Based on the text, it seems like people really do want to chime in on this Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Trump, New Hampshire, Iowa thing. If Nikki Haley wins New Hampshire, does that change anything? Of course, Joan, who'd called in the last hour, said absolutely not. And then the other topic that has sort of been catching us that I thought we'd talk about later, but I don't know, maybe now's the time, is some of this controversy related to Fani Willis out in Georgia and some allegations made by one of the Trump co-defendants about, I would call it corruption, but unethical relationship here between her and the special prosecutor, and also some financial benefit that she's alleged to have made. That'll be worth a conversation as well. You can give us a call at 303-696-1971. Before I cut you loose, though, can I pretty please tell you about selling your home? When you go to sell, and if you're in the market at all, this is the year to do it. Last year, very challenging. I know this firsthand, very challenging to try to navigate prices of homes, mortgage rates. Well, the mortgage rate should be better this year because the Fed says they're going to cut interest rates up to 6 times this year. That's on average about 1 every 2 months. That means all the people that sat on the sidelines smartly last year are going to try to rush forward now and get that house that you would like. Now, that's good for you as you sell your house. It makes it more challenging as you try to buy the next house. You can go with anybody that just pops up on a computer screen somewhere or a park bench somewhere, bus stop. But what you should do are called the best in the business, and that's Gay Ribble with the Empower Home team. We're going to have Gay in studio next week to have another conversation about this. When you listen to Gay, you know 2 things. One, what a great human being. If you want to do business with a great human being, you call up Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. The other thing is she just knows stuff, man. I mean, she knows stuff. She is not this person that a couple of years ago decided she wanted to supplement her income by becoming a realtor. Nope. She's been doing it for decades in the same metro area in which she grew and raised a family. So give her a call, 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. You can check them out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. All 4 words, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. When we come back, your calls, your texts, this developing topic. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNU. Let's get right to the phone lines at 303-696-1971. That's 1971. Ron, you're on 710. Ron, what do you think?
Well, I think that you've got DeSantis and Haley both that do not show any loyalty when in the beginning they said they were super loyal, right, to Trump. And you know as well as I do that loyalty is huge. And somebody tells you to your face, I'm loyal, I would never do this, I would never do that. And then the second somebody offers them the right amount of money, they're going to do it. That should say a lot to America, that these guys are easily bought. The highest bidder is the one that's going to not only get that person, but get that person to do what they want them to do.
Is that your sense of all the non-Trump candidates, Ron?
Right now, it's my opinion on DeSantis and Haley. Those are the two that we're focusing on.
What evidence do you have of that?
As far as them going to the highest bidder,
yeah.
Well, I just go off of what I see. You know, DeSantis loved Trump, right? I think he would have been president 5 years from now. I don't think he's going to now because he seems like a sellout because he loved Trump. Now he talks bad about Trump. Haley says that she would never run against him, and now she's doing just the opposite. And
but
that's
when you
just on
when
the
you point to
surface.
those two things, how do those support the idea that they're up for the highest bidder?
Well, what caused them to change their mind? I'm just going to use deductive reasoning. The fact that they were for
Maybe they
him,
wanted
then
to
all
be
of a sudden
maybe they
they're
wanted to
not.
be president of the United States, or maybe they thought that, hey, a guy who's been
could have
indicted
been.
4 times is
Patience.
going to be a distraction from the race. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why they would choose to run short of I've been bought and paid for.
Well, yeah, but then there's still that reason as well. Yeah, there might be other reasons, but there is still that reason. So while you can point to others, the fact that this one is still on the table is the one that makes a person say, you know what, 5 years from now, you would have been president, Ron, and you blew it. I mean, kids, you are a good governor. I mean, I was like, this guy's going to be great. And as soon as you see this, it's kind of like a stab in the back.
But why is it a stab in the back?
You're not looking
Why is
for
it a stab in the back?
Well, like I said earlier, I mean, if you're talking to them in the face and you're appreciative of them, you like them, you support them, and then as soon as, hey, you want to be president, you could beat this guy. You know what? I think I can. Screw that guy. Come on. That is not how. Well, that's how politicians are, right? That's not how you're supposed to be. That's not how we like it. You know, I would much rather hear the lousy truth than a good lie, right? Well, Trump usually tells us the lousy truth. We don't like the way he says it a lot. There's no question.
He also says some things, buddy, that just aren't true. But that's aside from this. What do you think about Trump? Who's Trump loyal to? Who's Trump loyal to?
From what I see, America and the American people.
How so?
First.
How so?
First and foremost. Well, close the border, right? That is the most important. Look at what's going on there. That is horrible. Let's not send money to Ukraine, right? Let's not.
Hold on. How is that loyal to America to give Ukraine over to Russia?
Well, I'm more curious as to why are you not pulling the weeds in your backyard and you're worried about the weeds in somebody else's yard?
Well,
let's worry about the weeds in our yard first.
But Ron, does that mean then we don't have any diplomacy? We're not engaged internationally at all. We just kind of hunker down here behind our borders and wait for something to show up offshore? Or what are we doing?
Are we really the world's police? You've heard that so many times, I'm sure. And it's like, no, we are not. I mean, yeah, we can help at times. We don't have to be the front runner. We don't have to be always in charge. We don't have to give money to where, like they say, you can't even monitor. That part is huge. You can't monitor what's going on with that money once you give it to them. And when you're giving billions of dollars to Ukraine and thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of dollars, I think maybe thousands, to Hawaii when they have their situation, that's a big problem.
Hawaii?
And if people,
What?
Yeah. Remember the big fires in Lanai?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't give him very much money. Remember?
No, so how is that connecting to the idea that
I'm saying if you're busy giving money to a foreign country, but you're not even you're giving. My dad always called it weenie soup, and it's like, what's weenie soup? It's like that's the water that's left over after my dad gets the weenie. And it's that's what they're giving us, and they're giving the hot dog to.
But Hawaii's gotten $400 million. Now, comparatively, that's a lot less than what we've done in Ukraine, but with a different reason as well. But and Ron, I'm fascinated with this too. Is there anybody that could have run against Donald Trump that wouldn't be viewed as like should nobody have opposed Donald Trump in this primary? Should we have just coronated him?
You know what? It's almost like the problem is that he didn't get to finish. Now, a lot of people think he got robbed. I think there was definitely shenanigans without a doubt.
When you say without a doubt, say without a doubt, what in the world are you looking at, man? Like I get saying, hey, I think something happened and I don't believe this, but what's the without a doubt part? Where is that?
Because that happens across the board every election. And if you don't know that, you're not paying attention.
Did it happen in 2016?
It happened in 2016. It happened every single year since probably even back in the Kennedy days. You know that there were people that were.
Then how did Trump win in 2016? If the fix is in, man, and it's all about fraud, how did he win?
Because it got caught with their pants down. They didn't think it was going to be at the numbers that they tried. They're like, holy cow, we're just not prepared at this level. We'll be ready the next time.
If it's just a matter of computers and pressing buttons and ones and zeros and all that stuff, how could they have gotten caught with their pants down?
Who's they?
Whoever the they is that you think got caught with their pants down.
Well, I'm wondering if we're thinking of the same they, because I'm thinking the ones that rigged it, meaning the Democrats, are the ones that were able to control it. Because come on, this no ID to vote. Why would anybody in their right mind before that, outside of I got ulterior motives? You show me your ID to go into or to open a bank account. You show me your ID when you want to buy liquor, but yet when you vote, you don't show your ID.
Yeah, but
why?
Ron, just for Colorado, Republicans dominate the number of clerks and recorders. Those are the people that actually count the votes. Griswold doesn't. If that's the case, why didn't Trump win Colorado?
I believe there are definitely more Democrats in Colorado than there are Republicans, regardless who's counting. I mean, that's obvious, right?
Okay, but so you trust the vote in Colorado or you don't trust the vote in Colorado?
That's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because, well, you really think there was no shenanigans?
Yeah. See, here's how this goes, and I'm happy to answer your question second. But I'm asking you if you trust the vote in Colorado. That feels like a straight up yes or no. If it's a no, that's great. And then ask me your question. But do you trust the vote in Colorado?
Well, I suppose that as far as Colorado is concerned, I love my state, so I would have to say yes.
Okay.
Because I do believe there are more Democrats in Colorado than Republicans. So, and I do believe that Republicans, while are not perfect by any means, are not going to try to fudge it because nobody's going to believe that Trump could win in Colorado. So yeah, I would definitely say I have to trust that. Based a lot on common sense.
Do you trust the New Hampshire vote? Do you trust what New Hampshire would do?
I'm talking about across the board. Do you think, you never answered my question. You said you'd answer.
Oh, yeah.
You think there's never been any shenanigans?
Oh, I think there have been shenanigans. Do I think, though, that whatever took place at whatever small level back in 2020 resulted in a change of outcome for the presidential election? I do not.
It wasn't one of those things that made you scratch your head and say, how the heck that happened? Huh?
No, not at all.
Like,
here's the problem.
That made me scratch my head.
Yeah, listen, We have more people in the country. We have made voting easier, and we can debate whether that's good or bad, but we made voting easier to accomplish. And I think the point that Trump folks lose is that not only does he excite them and motivate the base like nobody I've seen in my lifetime, he motivates Democrats like nobody I've seen in my lifetime. So when people say, hey, do you think 81 million people voted for Joe Biden? No, I don't. I think 81 million people either voted for Joe Biden or voted against Donald Trump. I can see that. I mean, look, travel around Highlands Ranch in otherwise red Douglas County. There are a ton of folks out there, many of them moms, who hate that dude. Hate that dude. If you took his policies and pulled them, they'd love his policies. You put his name on it, they hate him. That's just a reality.
Why do you think that is?
Because he is a crass, misogynistic dude. Undeniably, this guy is a crass, misogynistic womanizer.
Dinner. You're not going to be marrying him. You're not wanting him to be your brother-in-law, your uncle, none of that. You're wanting him to run the country. And if he's running the country really good, and he has good ideas, and he's done so much for our country when he was president, why would you be so, you know what, I don't like the guy because he says grab him, you know, where. And it's like, you know what, I am sure there have been your buddies as many other buddies that were in the locker room that had the same type of talk.
Yeah, and I'm not going to vote for them for president.
Not my friend. No, I don't deal with people like that.
I'm not voting for them for president, buddy. Here's the deal. I can't look my daughter in the eye and tell her it's no big deal. What he says is irrelevant. How he's treated women throughout his life, publicly and privately, it's irrelevant. The allegations against him about sexually assaulting a woman, that at least at the civil level, he was found liable for, that doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is this is a guy that's willing to promise to build a wall and have Mexico fund it, neither of which happens. And then we say he's the best thing since sliced bread. That's really problematic for me when I'm talking to my kids.
Yeah, but it's not problematic for you to look at the history and see the other presidents that have done just as bad, if not worse.
Well,
Clinton
there it is
being
then.
one. And it's amazing as to how people just say, you know what, but that was then. This is now.
No. But man, don't you have said Bill Clinton, evil, bad, look what he's done. I don't remember the last time he was adjudicated at any level a sexual abuser. Trump was. Now, either you say, yes, both of them are horrible, or you look at it and you say, well, there's something wrong with the thing that happened with Trump. I can just dismiss that.
If you really don't think that Clinton is guilty of a lot, then you are seriously closed-minded.
It's not a question of whether I think he's guilty or you think he's guilty. The question is, one of them has been through a legal process. The other one we just talk about and convict with our words.
Oh,
the other one has been through a civil trial.
Okay, I see. So O.J. Simpson was innocent. Okay, I see what you're.
No, I don't believe that at all, man. I don't believe that at all. But
well, he went through the legal system and was found innocent.
No, he wasn't found innocent. Nobody in the criminal justice system gets to be found innocent. They get to be found either guilty or not guilty. Not guilty is not the same as innocent.
I stand corrected. You are right. You are correct. But he went through the system and he walked. So
yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
Know,
and
the fact that Clinton was not able to get there, he he did walk,
then he was sued civilly. OJ was,
he's not
and
guilty. You know as well as I do.
Ron, OJ was found liable civilly, just like Trump, for the killing of Ron Goldman and his ex-wife. Do you believe that that's true or not true? Do you believe he did it or didn't? Because he went through the civil process the way Trump did.
He definitely did it, and he definitely got away with murder. Absolutely.
At the criminal level, he for sure did.
Just like Clinton has done rape, and he's gotten away with it.
How about Trump?
Absolutely.
How about Trump? Has Trump raped?
We don't know that.
Hold on. How do we not know that?
Loaded question. Here's
How
the problem
do we
with
not
that
know
loaded
that?
question. Here's the problem with that loaded question. It's because so many people hate him. So many people will lie. We don't know what's the truth and what's the lie. You know, there's no Russia collusion, but everybody believed it, didn't they? And you still have people that believe it.
Not everybody believed it. But I want to get back to this thing where, buddy, you've convicted in your mind Bill Clinton of multiple rapes, him having never spent a day in court.
I don't know where you got
these
multiple, but I definitely said one.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's one or not. You've convicted him. He's had no day in court to adjudicate this. Trump has, and your answer is, well, we don't know about Trump, but we definitely know about the guy who hasn't had his day in court. We know he did it.
Have you ever looked at the history of the ladies that have accused him, from Clinton to Trump? Have you looked at their background? Have you looked at their recall of the story? Have you looked at, come on, when somebody's able to vividly recall it, give you details, and the other person is saying, meh, and then they joke about it with Anderson Cooper.
Buddy,
it's
all I
like,
can tell you
wait
is
a minute.
this thing got litigated in the courtroom in which Trump and his attorneys had an opportunity to address these things. A jury rejected it. Now, you can impugn the character of the jury and the makeup of the jury, but he went through a process, and you've said, I'm going to excuse that. And the guy that hasn't gone through the process, Clinton, I'm going to go ahead and convict him. And don't you see some sort of hypocrisy there, some sort of a double standard?
Oh, there is a double standard. You are without a doubt correct on that. There's been a double standard in our court systems for quite some time. And the fact that we can't get true justice makes you wonder if justice is blind. You are
What's
100%
true
right on
justice?
that.
What's true justice?
True justice is if somebody is actually guilty of a crime, kind of like O.J. Simpson. He was actually guilty of it, and they were able to, he got a better attorney than what the state of California had, and they were able to, just because of the law and because of, you can't admit this, you can't do this, but you can do this, and you
Ron,
know as well as
Ron,
I
if
do
Trump-
that
if
he
Trump
had
is
a
convicted-
good lawyer. If the glove doesn't fit, you must
Yeah.
acquit. And
Ron, if
wow.
Trump is convicted down in Florida for that documents and stuff, is that true justice?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Are you talking about the documents that he took while he was president? But you're
ones
not
that he-
talking about the documents that Biden took when he
Hang on.
wasn't president?
The whataboutism
See what I mean
isn't
by
a defense
there's
to
no
criminal
justice?
conduct. Whataboutism is not a defense to criminal conduct. You've said true justice is when someone is held accountable for their criminal conduct. If Trump goes to trial, helps pick a jury, that jury convicts him beyond a reasonable doubt, is that true justice?
I would have to still lean towards who's the person, Trump. So many people in the judicial system, I'm shocked as to the power the Democrats have. I would say no, because their reach goes further than we could ever imagine. The Democrats rule and the Republicans follow. The Democrats could give the middle finger to everybody and say, and people say, shit. And that, I'm sorry, they say,
oh, buddy. Yeah, sorry, Ron. We got to let you go, man. We can't do the profanity thing. I know it wasn't intentional, and we have very loose, comfortable conversations here, but the FCC doesn't care. They just care that we cut you off when that happens. Listen, Ron's line is open at 303-696-1970. We're in the 9 o'clock hour. We're going to be joined by a congressional candidate. His name's Bob Gardner, state senator, veteran, JAG guy. We'll get him on as well. Listen, let's cut away for a break. I want to tell you about QC Kinetics. Again, as we hit that middle part of January, and my God, we're close to the middle part of January here, you're thinking to yourself, what do I have left to do to make 2024 better? Well, if you're dealing with chronic pain in your ankles, knees, elbows, hips, lower back, the only options you tend to have are pain pills. That sucks. Going under the knife, that really sucks. Long rehab, no thank you. Or QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics does regenerative medicine like nobody else. They've been doing this thing border to border, coast to coast for a long time now. They have tons of positive feedback from the folks that have done this procedure. They use you, the good parts of you, through regenerative medicine to help fix the parts that need help. You should check them out. You can go to their website at qckinetics.com. That's a Q and a C and a kinetics in there. K is how you spell kinetics. It ends in an X, as you can imagine. And you can check out all of the things that they have to offer. They'll answer all of your questions. These are the great folks that find a way to take that pain away long-term without you having to go under the knife. Who doesn't want to do that? Check them out at qckinetics.com. You can also give them a call at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. When we come back, your calls, your texts, and there's a bunch of them. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Not enough time to do all the things I want to do. Keep those texts coming in. In the next segment, we're going to have another candidate for CD5 Good Dude, Senator Bob Gardner from down south. Stick around for that interview. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final hour of the George Show on this Thursday, January the 11th. You're listening to 710 KNUS. Doug Lamborn, just about a week ago, this past Friday at about 9:30 a.m., went on to a radio show down south there to announce that he was not going to seek re-election. And that has started a bit of a firestorm with folks considering jumping in. A lot of big names come from El Paso County in the Republican world. One of them is joining us as a VIP right now. I've had the opportunity to work with Senator Gardner on a bunch of different things in and outside the Capitol. Joining us right now, Senator Bob Gardner. Sir, thanks for taking time out of your morning to talk with us. Billy? Senator Bob Gardner, you there?
Yeah.
Hello,
yeah.
Bob. Oh, there it is. Oh, shoot, good grief. I'm sure it was buttons on our end. Sir, how are you doing?
Good. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. If you're on a speaker or a Bluetooth, it's always going to sound better when you talk right into the cancer causing cell phone.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God, that's so much better. So much better.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Sorry
Verizon.
about that. The technology is great when it works.
No worries. Hey, I know that you're gearing up to go sit down and listen to the State of the State address here at 11 a.m. So thanks for taking time out of your morning to talk to us about this. Look, folks probably know your name from all the public service that you've done, but do listeners a favor and recap. Give us a little bit about your background. How did you get to this place where you're at today?
Well, that would take several hours, but I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. That's how I came to Colorado. I went away during my active duty service, came back, taught at the academy, taught law at the academy. Was a ICBM missile launch officer in the Strategic Air Command early in my career, and became a JAG just as you did in the Army. Went into private practice, wanted to do politics. I was the El Paso County Republican chair, practiced law actively, still do. And one day had a chance to run for public office. And did so, served 8 years in the House. I'm in my second term in the Senate. Thought, because I'm term limited, that I would not be seeking further office. After all, it's going to be 10 more years before I'm old enough to be president, apparently. But when Congressman Lamborn announced his retirement, I realized that this is an opportunity to continue to make a difference and to represent the people of the 5th Congressional District in a way that I really think they deserve. So that's the very quick and dirty.
First off, is some folks may not know this, but to be in the JAG Corps, you have to be particularly good looking. It's the only branch that has that as a requirement. So congratulations. But why the Air Force? Why not the Army? What happened there?
The honest answer to that is, George, I was going to be a fighter pilot. I'd be a fighter pilot today if I could do anything else in the world. But my eyes kind of went bad on me while I was studying so hard at the academy, and so I went off and did other things. But I nearly cross-commissioned in the Army. I thought about that.
You were so close to being right, but nonetheless, we won't dwell on the past. You have been a conservative champion there under the Gold Dome. You've also been a real, personally and professionally as the district attorney, you have been a real source of some guidance and leadership there at a time when we don't control things. And so when the left is out there trying to undermine and dismantle our criminal justice system, you've really been a champion in trying to hold things together. And even if we couldn't progress forward in a way that mattered, you really kept the wheels from coming off the bus, or at least so far. So thank you for that.
Thank you, George, and thanks for being there to support those efforts.
Your family obviously was looking at the calendar and thought, this is it. We're going to get Bob back. And then, as you've pointed out, you had this opportunity to continue to serve. How many curse words did they use when you floated the idea of running for CD5?
Well, they didn't use any curse words, but they said, are you, in all of this public service, Dad, have you lost what little sanity you had left? And I said, probably. but I think I have things to do. And they said, yeah, and we're all in. If that's what you want to do, we're ready to continue on with you. So, but yeah, it's a heck of a sacrifice, as you know, yourself, public service, whether it's in uniform as we both did, or whether it is an elective office. It's a sacrifice, and it's a sacrifice on the part of the family more than the member sometimes.
This is a seat that Doug held for 17, 18 years, if my math is right. It's one of those seats, as you know, when you get this thing, you can serve until you don't want to serve anymore. Do you have some sense? And I ask it in this context, and I should have asked Jeff Crank this too. Some folks out there have said, I'm going to self-impose term limits on myself. I'm going to say I'm going to serve 3 terms and then not. Have you ever thought about how long you would serve once elected?
Yes, and I announced that if elected, I will self-impose term limits of 4 2-year terms. I believe that elected office, public office, is public service, and that one ought not to be a professional politician or office holder. I have had long public service, but I have practiced law all along the way and continue to do so. And whatever happens, short of being elected to Congress, which won't allow the time, I will practice law as long as I can, because I enjoy helping people in small businesses resist and government regulation, try to help them navigate that system. And that's where my practice is focused.
When you look at the field as it is right now, and I'm still a Reagan guy. I don't like the idea of having to trash talk other Republicans, and I would never ask you to do that, Bob, because you're not that guy. But when you look at the field and you think, look, these are the things I bring that other candidates just don't bring to the table, what would those be?
That would be a decade and a half of the kinds of effective service that you talked about earlier. Of standing for conservative principles, standing for public safety being a top concern, for jobs and the creation of jobs, standing for parents, and doing all of that, but doing it effectively and getting things done, keeping bad things from happening, and actually making quite a few good things happen along the way when we can find across the aisle agreement about that. So that's what I bring to the aisle, or bring to the race. I also bring all of those years of experience as an attorney, a conservative attorney, though, and as I think some of your taglines and all say about what the bad jobs are. I think being the advocate for people to pursue their rights, whether they're the right to life, or the right to keep and bear arms, or the right to be free from governmental intrusion, and defending those rights is one of the highest callings one can have, and it's been my privilege to do that over the years.
If you get elected, you get sworn in, it's less than a year from now. What's that day one agenda that you have? What are the things you're like, this is what I want to accomplish in these early days?
Well, I like so many others, but I think it takes all of us. I want to jump right on border security, and there are solutions there. We need to get the ones done that we can get done. There's been a failure on the part of Congress, both sides of the aisle, to deal with that problem. Whenever you have a Democratic governor in Arizona begging the federal government to do something about the problem, there's a failure on the part of the Congress and the administration. And so we need to take that on. The budget and the economy, we need to take that on. But we need to do so in a thoughtful way. And that's a lot harder work than just voting no, or having a breakdown and putting at risk, putting at risk the paychecks of our men and women in uniform, or the checks for Social Security recipients and disabled veterans. Those are the things I'm going to tackle. Colorado Springs in El Paso County is top in the list of aerospace and defense and military installations. Because of my background, I'm going to be a champion for all of those things. I will, in the time that I've allotted to be there, those 8 years, work hard, hopefully on the Armed Services Committee, to make a difference for our men and women in uniform and for our veterans.
We're talking with Bob Gardner. He is a senator from El Paso County who has thrown his hat in the ring for CD5. Senator Gardner, I want to ask you a little bit about the race itself, because we heard earlier this week, and we've had him on the show, State GOP Chair Dave Williams has announced that he is also running for CD5, but is going to remain as chair of the Republican Party. Thoughts on that?
Well, as you said, I don't want to speak ill of others in the race. I just would say that as a former county chairman, as a former general counsel to the state Republican Party, it's absolutely unimaginable to me, unthinkable that someone could maintain their job as a party chairman and be engaged in a contested primary. Basically, what that means is that the state party chairman controls all the levers of one path to get on the ballot. And George, I've been an international election observer of all the things I've been privileged to do, and to be in former Soviet bloc countries trying to ensure free and fair elections. You know, our party is the party of free and fair elections, and not using the levers of power to ensure that we stay in power. So I really encourage the primary voters, both registered Republicans and the unaffiliated, who are inclined to our views and really would like to be part of a functioning party. Take a look at that, and when you make the choice, choose someone who chooses ethics and free and fair elections over and above maintaining their power.
Another question along those lines, but again, more about the party itself. You know that some of what's gone on in the party has been an effort to allow party leadership to weigh in on races in primaries. Now, you've been a county party chair. I've never been a county party chair, but I've been involved in grassroots Republican politics since I was 18 years old. I've never seen anything like that. Thoughts on that?
Well, again, as a former county party chair and a longtime party activist, it's unimaginable to me where we are, that anyone would be suggesting that we endorse this candidate or that candidate. I remember over the years when we didn't do that, and we tried to be as scrupulous as we could to not show any favoritism of one over the other. I remember accusations about where people got a table at the county assembly, or whether they did or didn't get a table at the county assembly. The party stalwarts and activists were so aggressive about that you just wouldn't have thought to do that. So again, I encourage the primary voters to take a look at who wants to run a free and fair election and who wants to control the levers of power, to the exclusion of all of those voters.
Senator Gardner, I want to convert you, if I can, to a different kind of an interview, if only because you're right there in the Gold Dome fighting in the trenches as we speak. Yesterday was the kickoff for the General Assembly from the Senate side of things, and we had Rose Puglisi, also from El Paso County, on in the last hour. What's coming for us? What do you see out there? What's your sense of this coming session?
Well, I think we're going to have more of the same of what we saw last session. We're going to have big fights over housing affordability. Republicans believe, and I would like to think that we can get enough Democrats to agree with us, that one of the big problems in housing affordability in Colorado today is the lack of a construction defects law that is functioning and workable, one that doesn't favor trial lawyers and really putting developers out of business. You can't build starter homes today in a economic manner because of the insurance premium costs and the fact that you can't get any insurance. We've said that over and over again. We're working on that. We're going to try to continue to work on that. We're going to continue to fight to preserve Tabor. We've got to do something about property tax relief, and I expect there will be many assaults on public safety and law and order, but some of that is not as intense as it was probably 2 years ago. And, I'm hopeful that we're going to continue to do good things there. Fentanyl is a crisis. We all know it's a crisis. We need to make it a crime. And in every situation, when you pass fentanyl to someone else and they die, there's got to be accountability for that. There's another bill for safe injection sites, and
oh my gosh,
I shook my head this morning. I thought, how many times do we have to kill that? How many times do we have to turn that away? That we all have compassion. I hope we do for those who are addicted to drugs, but giving them one more place and an opportunity to shoot up, frankly, and to get drugs is not what's going to help them. And that's a tough love kind of a situation, and enabling the conduct is not the way to deal with it. There's two distinct views of the world. Now, not everybody falls clearly in one camp or the other, but we talk about those distinct views. I won't go into that. That's probably an hour discussion, but there are those of us that are about both personal rights and personal responsibilities. And there are those who believe that government can somehow solve the problems and that we can do things so that people avoid the consequences of their actions altogether. We need to give a helping hand. We don't need to enable addictions and bad conduct and crime and so forth. So,
Senator Gardner, do you have a sense of where we're going with guns and abortion? It feels like abortion is now this new shiny thing that the Democrats want to roll out every election cycle because they think it gets them votes, and it probably does with some. Have you heard anything on those fronts, like enshrining our abortion law in the Constitution, or more an AR gun ban or something like that?
I think there may well be an attempt to enshrine abortion rights in the Constitution. And it highlights something that's really important, George. In the state Senate today, there are 12 Republicans, and that deprives the Democrat majority of a 2/3 vote. They have a clear 2/3 vote in the House, and that allows them to refer things to the Constitution. So we're going to, I believe all Republicans are going to stick together on that and deny them the opportunity to get that on the ballot. And maybe the politics of an election year will keep that from coming forward. I saw a bill, and I haven't had a chance to study it. I mean, they all got dropped yesterday, a bill on dealing with firearms violence and crimes. And there may be something we can do there. I'm not saying that bill, because, again, I believe in reading them before you vote on them.
Wait, what? Come on.
Yeah,
Nancy Pelosi told us that's not how it works.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to ensure happens when I go to Congress as well. But I did see that maybe at least the packaging, the messaging on the bill was to deal with penalties for those who misuse firearms. You and I both know that when you impose penalties for those who possess firearms who have a prior felony, and you do serious penalties, you cut the numbers of firearms casualties in our society.
That's right. That's right.
The only thing, and I've said this very publicly in the well, the only thing that the Clinton administration sort of got right was the emphasis on putting people in prison who possessed firearms with a prior felony or engaged in firearm violence. And it kind of filled the federal prisons, but it was effective and it was strong. And we need to do that here. You wrote about this, about the Attorney General wanting to provide state prosecutors instead of doing it themselves, as I recall.
I was going to ask you about that too. Are you in a position, and I don't think you're on the JBC, I know Barb is, but are you in a position to ask the Attorney General's office, hang on, you championed allowing a whole bunch of convicted felons to end up possessing firearms. Why are you now coming back to us to ask for taxpayer money to fund prosecutors to go do it at the federal level?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I serve on judiciary and I serve on appropriations. We'll be asking that question and doing it as publicly as we're able to do, because that is what you wrote in your article that I read a week or so ago is exactly right. It's like, you know what the solution, or at least a way to address this problem is, General Weiser, but you're not willing to do it yourself. You want the feds to do it, or you want to give them resources to do it. We need to do it at the state level. And the U.S. attorney needs to do so as well. But wow, when I appreciate the work you do so much, George, because that called that issue to my attention, and I said, I got to ask the Attorney General about that when the session comes. I would literally, I'm glad you brought it up, or whichever one of us did. I saw that and I said, wow, that's got to be addressed when we start having hearings.
It's the weirdness, though, of having a single party dominance government, is they can run amok and do whatever they want to do, and it's only in the rear view mirror do they look back and go, maybe that was an awesome policy. And then they try to get someone else to clean it up. They had to come back and try to fix the fentanyl bill that they screwed up. They tried to come back and fix the possession of weapons by a previous offender bill. They still got it wrong. And now it's like, let's try to help out another agency that'll do what we don't have the political will to do. It's cuckoo.
Well, it is. And, I called the Attorney General to task a couple of years ago about the fentanyl bill, because he came in full support of criminalizing fentanyl deaths and so forth. And I said, wait a minute, where were you in 2019 when this bill came forward? Right. And those of us were fighting about it. Where were you?
Silent.
And again,
silent.
Yeah, silent. Crickets. I think the Attorney General's an ethical and intelligent guy, but he doesn't have the political will to tell his party we can't do that. I think this idea of handing money and resources to the federal government to do the job with respect to firearms possession by felons and others who are rightly prohibited from having firearms. I think that's because of not being able to stand up as a leader, someone who has indicated he wants to run for governor, who hasn't been willing to stand up and say, and this is what we have to do. Whether we're Republicans or whether we're Democrats, we have to have a safe society. We have to have safe neighborhoods.
Well, and more than that, Bob, too, it's if you have a governor that signed that thing into law, you've had an AG that's championed allowing drug dealers and car thieves to continue to possess firearms. If they truly believe that is what is good policy for Colorado, and that's what Coloradans support, then it seems completely hypocritical to now go to the feds and say, we'd like to help you do what we think is wrong for Colorado. I mean, it's craziness that they would come forward and say, we championed policy that we think speaks to Colorado, but now we want the feds to come in. Where else do they do this? I mean, if you were there, Bob, they passed laws that say that sheriff in Teller County can't cooperate with ICE because we're not in the business of helping to support and defend federal law. We're just supposed to be pushing state law. And then they turn around on this gun issue and go, well, we're going to help the feds do what we don't think is right here in Colorado. It's craziness.
Well, maybe it's not, well, it's craziness on its face, but what it is political expedience of recognizing that they can't stand up to their own constituencies and say, look, there are bad people. And the toughest and most socioeconomically challenged neighborhoods are where most crime occurs. And those are the people who are crying out for safe neighborhoods. All of us to some extent, but they're in particular. And Democrats are unwilling to say that if we do that, that means that we're going to arrest some people, take them off the street. They're going to be incarcerated, and your neighborhood is going to be safer. And they just, it's not craziness in the sense, I mean, I understand why you say so. And I say that to myself every day as well. But as I think about it, it's just because they are unwilling to speak the truth.
I think that's absolutely right. I'm glad that you are willing to, and we'd love to have you back on to have conversations, not just about the race, but about what's going on under the Gold Dome. 119 days to really continue to derail the state of Colorado. I hope that you're able to stop it.
Well, we're gonna throw ourselves in front of the train as we have for all the years that I've been here, and continue to do so, and hope we can do that. Not only throw ourselves in front of the train, but start a train somewhere to do something that's right for Colorado, and ask them across the aisle to get on board. So appreciate it. Always glad to come and talk with you. Enjoy it immensely. Thank you.
Do you have a website, Bob, yet for the CD5 thing?
Oh heavens. A week ago at this time, I thought that I was a term limited state senator and was going to be practicing law full time. We got our team together this week, and we will have a website very soon. But that's how quickly
when you do come back on, and we'll have you talk about it. Senator Bob Gardner, thanks. Good luck at the State of the State today. We'll have you on again in the future.
Oh, thanks, George. Always enjoy it. Bye-bye.
See you, sir. The most truthful thing that was said there was that Jags are the best looking. I'm kidding. That fascinating conversation. I love the back end of it as well, including the talk about what's going on in the legislature. Hey, listen, we're going to get to your calls and your texts. Give us a call. What are you hearing there? 303-696-1971. Lots covered by Senator Gardner. Before we cut away, I want to tell you about Brent and Joyce Tolliver. They do the stuff inside your house that you really like. If your neighbors walked into your house after Brent and Joyce Tolliver make it super awesome on the inside with the roll them out shelves, they can't see it. They can't feel it. But you can, right? Like, this isn't the kind of facelift thing where you're getting the cabinets done or the countertop. It's not that thing. This is internal workings. This is improving the efficiency and enjoyability of your home, because now everything is within arm's reach. You can just roll it out. They've been doing this thing for years. I love the small business entrepreneurial thing. Problem is, they've been so successful, the business keeps getting bigger and bigger, and they keep adding on employees, not subcontractors, employees, to come in and do this great work. Do me a favor, go to rollemoutshelves.com. Roll them out shelves, EM for M, rollemoutshelves.com, and look at the videos of what they do. It gives you an idea of how they make your cabinets better and more useful, and at such a reasonable price, under like $1,000 for most of these things. I mean, fantastic stuff. You're going to say, that's the best bang for my buck I've put in my house in a long time. 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, rollemoutshelves.com. When we come back, your text, your calls, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to State Senator Bob Gardner for taking so much time out of a legislative morning, especially one that's going to have Governor Polis gobbling up some time at the 11 a.m. hour to give the state of the state address. We'll hopefully talk with some legislators tomorrow. We're trying to arrange that right now to give feedback on that and to continue to let us know what's developing. Always scary stuff when the Dems are in charge of the General Assembly. Scarier still when they have near supermajorities in each house. The state Senate seems like it's the last best place to keep them from doing a whole bunch of craziness, but we'll see. And then, when we had Assistant Minority Leader Rose Puglisi on from the House in the 8 o'clock hour, she had said something a little scary too, which is normally you would expect during an election year that would moderate or temper the other side from doing things that are nutty. She said, I see no evidence of that at all. It seems like this is going to be more of the same, maybe even worse. That's telling, a little bit scary. That is very, very interesting that we are in times like that where, and I think in part it's because we don't have any statewide races that matter. I know we're wringing our hands over the idea of the state party coming out and endorsing Donald Trump before we actually cast a single vote, which just doesn't feel like America to me. It doesn't feel like the Republican Party to me. But having said that, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter who the Republicans nominate. No Republican presidential candidate in 2024 is going to win the state of Colorado. I mean, the biggest fight, in my opinion, on that realm is whether or not we get to have whoever we want on the ballot, free of interference by Jenna Griswold or some appellate court, and that includes the Colorado Supreme Court. That part matters to me, and that's not a Trump thing. That to me is a don't be telling us our business thing on something that is just such a gray area, but we've talked about that before. Listen, we've had a bunch of texts that have come in here. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the interviews we've done today, as well as this thing with Nikki Haley and whether or not Chris Christie leaving the race means she could win New Hampshire. And if she does it matter? Here's a texter. If Trump loses New Hampshire, it says New Hampshire. And what I can't tell is if there's two NHs here. If Trump loses New Hampshire, NH does not represent the country. I wonder if that's Nikki Haley or New Hampshire does not represent the country. One light state out of 50. Yeah, but it's an indication, right? Like, I mean, if this guy is the anointed one, the preordained, we don't even need to go through the trouble of putting him on ballots anywhere. Losing a state is an indication. It's the same thing I asked Joan back in the 7 o'clock hour. When he wins Iowa, and he for sure will win Iowa, he will for sure win Iowa by double digits. If Trump gets less than 50% of the vote, and he could get over 50, but if he gets less than 50% of the vote, if more than 50% of Republicans say we'd like somebody else, does that mean anything? Is it a crack? Is it an opportunity, an opening? Is there, and again, we have been approaching this entire primary with sort of this weird rubbernecking the debates that take place between people that are arguably irrelevant at the moment, and trying not to get to a point, in my opinion, where we just say, hey, let's have round two of 2020. I wasn't excited by that election to begin with, and I'm certainly horrified by the outcome. But the idea that we're going to have two guys who are, a lot closer to the end than the beginning, if you know what I mean, as our candidates, I just thought we would have a different primary, but we haven't so far. Here's another I watched last night, and Trump too. Based on long strategy, I see Trump getting Christie as VP. What? Oh my dear God. It would help to lock in the votes of people that sit in between, and Christie has a voice that people will believe, and he will challenge Trump for the better. Crazy, right? ? Yes. And by crazy, I mean crack smoke crazy. There's no chance Trump would tap Chris Christie, a guy who has been throwing haymakers at him on issues of character, morality, fitness for office, for vice president. But more than that, Chris Christie wouldn't accept that. No matter what ego Chris Christie has, and the dude was a U.S. attorney, he was a prosecutor. I imagine there's ego in there somewhere as a trial attorney. Dude is not going to ever accept that. That would blow him up with his family, let alone his friends and supporters. I mean, this guy gave a speech yesterday that I think was trying to tap in some ways, the end of A Tale of Two Cities. Dickens' great work that ends with, "It is a far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far better rest that I go to than I have ever known." That was tainted a little bit by his off-mic comments, or what he thought were off-mic comments about Haley and DeSantis. But this is a guy who basically said, "I fought the good fight. I've done as much as I can do. It's time for me to move on. But please, for the love of God, let's not have Donald Trump as president." That guy could never be Trump's running mate. I just don't see that. Here's another text. "DeSantis won't endorse Trump. His only option is Haley, unless he doesn't endorse anyone." That's very interesting, too. Could he come out and endorse Haley? Because instantly the questions would be, what about this? You said she's owned by corporate interests. You said this and that. Why would you support someone who's owned by corporate interests? Why would you support someone? That's just a tough conversation to have. Not impossible. Like I said, Bush with the voodoo economics and stuff with Reagan, they figured out a way to make sweet love for 8 years. But it would be hard. It would be hard. And I just wonder what difference it would make. We had a caller earlier, Ron, who talked about how disloyal DeSantis and Haley were for choosing to run against him. I'm just not sure how running against someone is an act of disloyalty unless they were your vice president. And I'm not saying Pence was disloyal. I'm saying as your vice president ran against you, nobody owes anybody anything in the political game. But the question was, Trump, what's his definition of loyalty? Who has he been loyal to? The minute anybody poses a threat to this guy, he burns them to the ground. It's very, very interesting. Here is, given how they created okay, this was going back to, this is a text we got, going back to the conversation we had with Ron about Clinton and Trump and the disparity in treatment by folks who are Trump people when it comes to Clinton. With Clinton, it's just a known fact. Dude raped women. He just raped women. It's a known fact. Doesn't matter if he ever has a day in court. We all know it. And then there's Trump, who's had a day in court, several of them, in fact, in a civil setting, agreed it was a civil setting, where he was found liable for some type of sexual assault. That's not a conviction. That's not beyond a reasonable doubt. Don't mishear me. But that's something more than Clinton had. How is it we can be so certain that Clinton did this, but we're so certain that Trump didn't? Or as Ron said, like, well, we don't know. How can we not know? There's more out there that was in front of a jury that his team helped pick than there was for Clinton. How is it that we're so certain? The only answer is this cult of personalities commitment to a guy who we just see as the savior for America. There's nobody else you would do this for. You would never make those kinds of excuses for a Ron DeSantis or a Vivek Ramaswamy or a Chris. You never make those excuses for them. You would only make those excuses for DJT. And I know for some, and I've seen this in text, greatest president of my lifetime. No, thank you. Not even close, man. He did great things as president compared to what we have right now, but greatest president of my lifetime? I don't think so. I don't think the guy puts a glove on Ronald Reagan. That's just me, though. I don't know, man. I guess everybody makes promises that they don't keep. I've just never seen anybody get off the hook this way. Now, one of the okay, now somebody just texted in. George, I think Clinton paid $750,000 settlement to Paula Jones. That's pretty convincing. Okay, so and I don't know that that's true, but I'm just going to presume it's true. So if the dude scratches a check for a settlement to Paula Jones, that's proof. But if a jury comes back and finds this guy liable for conduct after he's had the opportunity to contest the evidence against him, that hard to say. Hard to say what's happened.
Hey, George, pardon me. Got a question. If we're looking
question from a caller, or
yeah,
a question
no,
from
for
a
me.
Billy?
If we're looking at settlements being proof, if in the Clinton case that it is proof of things that he did with Paula Jones when he cut the check, then is it time to talk about the check Fox News cut about election fraud? Because if they could have proven the again, we don't
No,
go
I
down
get
that.
what you're saying.
But
I
that's
get what
the
you're
issue
saying.
is that when someone texts in and says, well, a payment is proof of bad behavior. Well, payment in the Fox case, is that proof of their bad behavior and their lies? It's an interesting question, but I like your premise on the Clinton and Trump example, because the issue is that how come they are not viewed as being equal? We're not saying that Bill Clinton isn't a dirty rat, and I can't say the rest of the word here. Yes,
horrible. Yeah.
But how come when someone does go through the court process, does that not, in other people's minds, equate? How come being found liable of this behavior?
I don't know.
Isn't proof?
We've set fire to the criminal justice and civil justice systems because we disagree with the outcomes. And in this thing that we'll talk about, I think tomorrow, Billy, this interesting developing story about Fani Willis and the accusations by one of Trump's co-defendants that she paid a whole bunch of money to this guy, like 650 gur since November of 2021 for work as a prosecutor and some other stuff. We're going to get to talk about all that stuff tomorrow. But again, this is where we've gone, and it's only because of this guy. We don't do this for anybody else. We have set fire to an institution that underlies our commitment to the Constitution and the rule of law because we simply don't like the outcome. We refuse to believe that this guy could be guilty of anything. I mean, and Ron was a great caller in a lot of ways. One was, you heard that 18-minute gap of silence. I made that up. It wasn't 18 minutes. When I said, listen, if true justice comes from the court system, if Trump is convicted down at the Mar-a-Lago case for the documents, is that true justice? Long pause. That's a hard one. That's a tough one. Because if he's found guilty, and I think that's the case he's most likely to be convicted of, what do we say? Well, then the fix was in. He should have never been prosecuted. It wasn't a crime. That's what's happening. It sounds like, and I need to do more research with the Fani Willis thing. Like, well, she has a relationship with the special prosecutor. Therefore, the underlying facts are fake. What? Therefore, Trump should have never been prosecuted, because if she wasn't sleeping with the special prosecutor, those facts wouldn't exist. I don't know. I mean, I still think there's political motivation there for these things, and that's the most damning thing. But let's not get caught up in the idea that political motivation for prosecution or some other relationship that shouldn't exist, that doesn't make the facts go away. Those are the things we got to contend with. And I just don't know what the right answer is here yet, but I think it's problematic that each of these prosecutors on the local side that are prosecuting Trump have taken public positions against Trump and getting him, in essence, during their campaigns. That makes me question the prosecution, right? But I still want to know what the facts are. Hey, listen, we're going to cut away for a break. I want to tell you first before about Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. Mitch Floria, I can't say enough great things about him. I think we're getting Mitch back in the studio here in the near term to talk about his super backstory, because this dude is straight up American, not even born here, but came here legally, had the DNA running through him, the American DNA from the word go, left communist-controlled Romania. He gets it. He understands freedom, capitalism, and customer service like nobody else out there. He's the only place to call when you're looking at replacing the countertops in your kitchen, bathroom, laundry room, maybe that finished basement. 303-386-5919. Not just any number. That's his number for his cell phone. 303-386-5919. You can check out the great stuff he does at theartofgranite.com. All 4 words, theartofgranite.com. When we come back, remaining text, remaining thoughts, and any calls at 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Final moments of the show. The music's going to kick on here in a few seconds. It always seems to fly by, largely because of you guys with the phone calls and the texts driving the conversation. Today was no different. I think tomorrow's going to be the same. There's so much to talk about tomorrow. We're going to get into this Fonnie Willis stuff. We're also going to look at, there's a clip I hadn't seen yet from, I believe it was the Boston mayor inviting people to invite migrants into their homes to try to deal with this catastrophe that's developing. I wonder if that's coming for Denver. I wonder if Mike Johnson's going to be giving that speech to us soon. Hey, stick around for tomorrow, 6 to 10. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.